It's
cool.
It's okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we got
okay.
Anthony in the house. We got KG. Let's give our other panelists. Takeshi, I see you, man. Let me bring you up quick. Guys, if you're on the panel, request to speak. Also, we have we have an influx of panelists today. This is a popular topic, and a lot of people got in touch with me after we made the official announcement and said that they want to come on. If it were up to me, I would just have a mega panel of people going back and forth. Unfortunately, Twitter has not reached a point where they can allow for a bunch of people to come on, or rather for I think more than 10 people to come on at once. So I'm going to be bringing on panelists as they join, and if someone has a question or they really want to add insight, shoot me a DM. I have my Twitter DMs open on my computer, so and please DM me on my on my personal account. The main account, sometimes I don't see the DMs right away. Let's get the main Whalecoin Talk account here as well as a co-host.
Hey, what up, guys? Thanks for having me. What's up, Noah, Mr. Dip, everybody else up here? Awesome to be here on one of your spaces. I mean, I'm used to doing my own. I like to pop in, but hey, these panel talks, like I'm a huge fan of. Can't wait to see what we get going today.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for coming on. I know that you have a bit of a time crunch, and we can get started here. And people always trickle in a little bit late, and that's fine. But Web3 gaming, right? Web3 gaming, and I know that Acti wanted to share an intro as well. But basically, Web3 gaming is my favorite sector of the industry. That's because I grew up playing video games, like a lot of the people on this panel. I played a lot of Super Nintendo. I played a lot of N64, a lot of GameCube, and then I kind of transitioned to computer games in 7th or 8th grade with Diablo and ultimately World of Warcraft. I played a lot of World of Warcraft over over the second half of my high school career. So I've spent a lot of time in that. I consider that to be a metaverse. I spent a lot of time in that metaverse, and the idea of tokenization of assets, asset ownership, it really makes sense to me. I really do see a clear future for Web3 gaming. I think there are going to be some bumps on the road, which is normal for any new innovation. And I basically just, everyone here is involved with Web3 gaming to some capacity, is involved with gaming to some capacity. And so I wanted to pass the mic around, get people's insights. Where do you think we're headed? What sectors do you think, or rather, which genres of games do you think are going to be affected first? I mean, I have a lot of questions. This is more of me asking questions from the panel rather than facilitating, although I'll be doing both. But I have an idea of where I see Web3 gaming going, but I'm going to pass the mic to Acti to share any opening thoughts. And then, guys, from here on out, just raise your hand. Mac, there you go. I love it. Just raise your hand or chime in, and let's get this panel going, because I know we have a lot of great minds on here and a lot to share. So, Acti, if you have anything to say, take it away. Otherwise, I'm going to pass the mic to Mac and let him get started.
I think you nailed it in the head. No, that's what I was gonna say. Just kind of small segue in Web3. What our vision is for the gaming world. But I already see the hands up coming. So I'll let you do your magic.
Definitely appreciate it, guys. And I had to beat Anthony to the punch. I know as soon as you said that, he was going to shoot his hand up like a rocket was shooting off. So I had to get up in there first. Me personally, I mean, I think the biggest sector of gaming that's going to be affected is actually the biggest sector of gaming. I mean, hyper casual mobile games. That's what's really going to end up bringing in the masses. Like, everybody's looking at esports, the first-person shooters and shit. I mean, I'm a fan of those. I love those games. Love Call of Duty. Grew up on World of Warcraft just like you did. And I can't wait to see those large-scale MMORPGs also get into the mix too. But, initially, look at everything that's being built right now. The simplicity of it. I mean, these hyper-casual games, being able to integrate tokens, being able to integrate NFTs. I mean, that's really where a lot of these gaming developers, a lot of the studios are looking at first because of the simplicity. I mean, we can really get in there. You can make a kick-ass hyper-casual game in a month if you really know what you're doing, if you've got the team, and then it's the next step. Like, then you get the marketing on the same page, we go do the spaces, and it's the awareness push. But you can't do that with these Call of Duty style games that take literally a year, 2 years to build. You can, but like where we are in the markets right now, you don't want to really try to push on that to your community. You don't want to do this huge 10,000 release of digital collectibles and then make everybody wait a year, because that's been done. And shit, I mean, I've got some for other games that I'm actually still waiting for today. I know how it works. I wait, like I wait it out, but I think hyper casual gaming and mobile gaming is going to be the main area that really blows up first. And in addition to that, there's actually something else that I believe is going to be a huge contributing factor, which is going to be music. Music is going to be huge with NFTs in the space because they kind of go hand in hand with gaming. I mean, these studios, they're going to want to get their own music rights, and they're going to want to try to get them in there into the game. So I think they kind of, go hand in hand and mix really well together.
Anthony.
Yeah, I think David hit it right on the head as well. When we look at this, there's two major contributing factors that I look at personally. One is of course the hyper-casual gaming market on mobile devices is the largest market in the world already. So it only makes sense that that's where we're going to see the mass adoption occur quickly, or quicker, I should say. But in addition to that, David also touched on the point of what AAA studios are doing. And we're seeing a lot of amazing indie studios and passionate developers in this space build complex things. But if I was, the CEO sitting upon the board of a AAA studio worth billions of dollars, and we have a system that works and we're making money and our communities are satisfied, I'm not necessarily going to be taking that big risk of putting several $100 million up and putting my resource allocations aside for a year or two to start building on something. So they're really testing the waters, and I think that a great introduction to that is the simpler development. Of course, beyond that, they're kind of funding smaller studios and getting involved and making their toe dipping experience here in Web3 available. But yeah, I agree entirely with what David said. And conversely, if we look at the tech side of things as well and how Web3 exists, I mean, the culture breeds the innovation, in my opinion. We see decentralization as a mantra in Web3 as a whole, and that's what really pushed Bitcoin and then decentralized finance. We have a similar aspect here in this community where there's a culture that drives the innovation. So I think that a lot of those major developments that blockchain technology can benefit, such as game economies within MMORPGs, some of these simulation style games, these are things that are going to come after this culture really builds itself up and really gains some traction.
I think Gus had his hand up next, so I'm going to go to Gus and then Ian and then J-Man.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, guys. Great to meet you all. Actually, the topic that Mac was talking about in terms of hyper casual games, I think I have like a little bit of an argument there. I mean, we're building an MMORPG. We're launching. We've been building the game for almost since January 2021, and we're launching the game in January 2023. Right now, like 1 month away from now. I see the point of mentioning that mass adoption would be in hyper casual gaming, but if we look at the whole landscape of gaming, hyper casual gaming consists of 0.6% revenue of the overall generated from gaming. So although it has like the highest downloads, it has the maybe we can see it's always on the top charts, but technically in terms of usage, retention, what the users are doing in the game, it's just like a quick flip for all these hyper casual gaming studios. So every day they need to put a new game. Every day they need to set up a new game because users spend like almost on average 7 days on the app, and then they forget about it or delete it. So in that terms, we don't see that this would create the adoption we need for GameFi. It's still the MMORPGs, the high quality games, the Call of Duties, the World of Warcrafts, which we believe Xivia is the World of Warcraft of Web3. That will still bring the adoption, because to bring the adoptions, you need loyalty and usage for that. And hyper casual gaming doesn't have it. So yeah, that's just, I wanted to interfere in that point.
Ian.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Ian Bentley. I'm the CEO of WAGB.
Ian, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. You're not the first person to mispronounce my name. Yeah, I think that the one thing to also consider about is what's the definition of hyper casual versus mobile? There are hyper casual games that essentially are pure garbage and people go in and out of them, right? So if we think that that's going to be the way that there's going to be mass adoption, I don't really agree with that, because who cares about the ownership of assets for games where people are just in and out real quickly? I think when we're talking about mass adoption, we're building a mobile game, so we're bullish on mobile, but it's all about not really starting or having the NFT or the Web3 technology as the selling point. And I think that that's going to be the main way that everybody is able to get on board with Web3. It's don't mention Web3. Don't mention NFTs. Like I spoke last week at Decentral, and I said, NFTs are the 3-letter bad word in our in our industry, because nobody cares about the NFT. Nobody cares about the technology, as long as you can have proper branding. And I think that that's the other thing that a lot of games are not really focusing on. It's the full 360-degree view of branding, right? If you want to be a World of Warcraft or compete with those types of games, you can't just have a game, right? You have to have some lore. You have to have branding. You have to spend the time on understanding the actual target market and understanding that gamers care about a lot more things before they care about, that acronym called NFTs, right? If they like the game, if the game is good, if they actually have a invested interest into it, if they can actually relate to the characters, then there's the opportunity to then say, hey, by the way, did you know you can now trade this on GameStop? And the other thing I'm constantly saying is, hey, listen, you're used to buying a game for $60 and taking it to GameStop for $5. Now you can buy an asset for $5 in some of these games and take it back to GameStop for $60 after you've spent some time and leveled them up. So I think that there's so much that we can uncover here on this conversation here, but I think that there's a quintessential difference between hyper casual and actual true real mobile games in which assets are actually something that are coveted, as opposed to just, it's a 3-minute, I'm going to go on the toilet and play Candy Crush type game.
J-Man.
What's going on, man? Noah, Dizzle, how you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so it's funny we're here talking about mobile gaming. I not the last issue, the previous issue of Crypto Magazine, Soft Shell, right? I wrote a article, but it was more targeted towards play to earn, which is, if there's some new folks here, they're probably just thinking that gaming and crypto gaming is just play to earn. It's actually not. We're not quite there yet on play to earn. But gaming itself, where you can take NFTs and trade them around and make money on your skins, that to me is a lot more valuable than number go up play to earn style of gaming, because this kind of wave started when kind of early last year, right? Well, I don't say too early last year, but kind of like May-ish, after the dump, we started seeing a lot more games, because Axie's obviously was the king back then. They still kind of are. But that was because of the guild. So that was kind of like an inflated, FTX type style of number go up. I'm going to make money with this industry, because those guilds were pushing those, were overinflating the value of the farm tokens, right? So what ended up happening is we transitioned from these startup games, launching on BSC or whatever other side chains there were, to just start up at all. No, it's a big wave. No VCs, anything like that. Then VCs started getting behind it, and it kind of shifted my ideology. I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe there's something there if the VCs are there, but I was nothing but just destruction again, because the tokenomics that we have for play to earn in these games, they're so far there's not sustainable. There's something that's being missed, that's not being applied. Now, what I did touch up on is that there is some, again, evolution, right? There has to be some kind of outside revenue with these games, because otherwise, why not just launch on Steam, right? No, you mentioned that you're heavy in a computer gaming, right? I mean, is Steam now still the king in like the non-crypto gaming? Are they still?
I believe so, but my experience with playing computer games is mostly Blizzard Entertainment games. So Diablo, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. Those are kind of my. I played some CS, but I mainly enjoy the RPG / MMORPG genre. It's my favorite genre of game.
Okay. So, funny you mentioned CS. Counter-Strike actually, they're being well, I don't know if Counter-Strike is promoting this certain blockchain called BSV, but BSV is allowing you to play Counter-Strike and kind of earn there. So it's kind of a weird kind of economics there. But yeah, I mean, I think our evolution, we still got a long way to go. As I forgot who mentioned, a couple speakers, it might have been Anthony that mentioned this. It takes 3 to 5 years, right? Sometimes a little less, depending on how much money a studio has to spend on their talent, to make what we see now on console games and something that requires a high-end computer to play. So if you think of the development of that, look at where we are in crypto. We literally just started the game rush. Right. So the expectations, if some of you and down in the listener side, if some of you just started the genre, maybe you got wrecked by a game because whatever you thought it was number go out. Listen, we're at the start of crypto period. We're at the start of this, but let's look at the games. Just remember we're still at the development phase of it. So I don't know if it's going to take just big studios coming into play. If indie developers are gonna make the right marriage between all of this, but we'll kind of, I'm curious to see where this is going to go. So, but yeah.
Okay, I think it's Tech and then Anthony. And sorry if I messed up the order, guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I agree with a lot of what J Crypto is saying, and even Mr. Bentley. Like, it's a combination of both of those. True Web3 gaming is very boring, right? It's very smart contract oriented, right? You look at like what is it, crypto bots? It's like take turns interacting with a smart contract, and it's very low infrastructure, very decentralized. Like what we're seeing, and it's a lot, it's probably very generational of us. Like we want that great experience, like a PS2 game or a PS3 game, or Call of Duty or whatever, Modern Warfare or whatever the hell. Diablo, whatever we want, but that type of stuff is very expensive in terms of infrastructure, architecture, right? And crypto touched on it, right? These things have to be sustainable, and you have to figure out ways to generate revenue because people, for the most part, aren't going to pay gas fees to interact with a smart contract to constantly update. So then you start going back to this hybrid mindset of Web2, where someone owns a server somewhere, queuing up transactions to eventually write it on a blockchain somewhere. So I feel like there's ways to go, and it always resorts back to that very casual gaming where it's very minimalistic, very simplified in order for a team to get something out there, right? That hyper casual term that was used. So Web3 is here. I believe we're just slapping what's the saying, putting lipstick on a pig, and we're still, for the most part, everyone is still in Web2, but they're adding the appendage of tokenization, NFTs and whatnot in order to try to galvanize and get community. But for the most part, Web3 community is still very small, right? I believe it's probably under 200,000 people. And with the amount of projects that are coming out, that's it becomes very diluted and it's hard to gain traction. So and I believe that there's still gains and doublings that have to be made in speed with interacting with the blockchains and the cost of it, in order to truly realize Web3 gaming at an experience that will captivate the world. But with the amount of technologies that are out there, you see Unity, and you can use there's a few centralized platforms that you'll do authentication for you. You see Unreal, and the solutions there kind of suck in order to do the wallet maintenance and things like that. And then you have the 3JS is coming along on the browser level, but even that has its limitations with memory. It's like this environment full of possibilities, but a lot of challenges. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Hopefully in the next bull run, it evolves in a way where it's a lot easier for projects to stand things up. But one thing that, if, in my opinion, and I've been trying to build out a game, and I've been hitting all these roadblocks, is you have to figure out ways to monetize it. And the ad model, right, that you see with all these online influencers and all these games in the iOS store, that's something that you really have to consider. But the legality, the finance, the accounting of how you bring someone into your game, and every 30 seconds, every 5 minutes, you give them an ad, right, in order to create some revenue to support your infrastructure. There's a lot of unknowns there, right? Because taxes have to be paid. A lot of legal hurdles have to be cleared in order for you to, bring that money into a common pool or whatever it is to do, play to earn gaming, or just simply keep the servers and the lights on. So it'll be interesting how this all plays out. But I believe we're in the middle right now in terms of Web2, Web3. Very few Web3 games, true Web3 games, are out there because they're simply not that attractive. That's what I have to contribute at the moment.
Anthony.
I guess I've got 2 points that I'd like to address. Just first on the blockchain technology and the feasibility. I do agree that we're several years away, but there are some individuals in this space that I know personally that are doing some really innovative things with being able to hit the TPS that's necessary for full-fledged games to exist on the blockchain. How far and how much of that functionality exists within the ledger system, I'm unsure. But I don't think we're as far away as we believe, but there's still a few years to go. Having said that, I mean, a lot of the big studios coming in are kind of working in a 2.5 state where a lot of that transactional behavior occurs within the database in the game, very centralized. And then, of course, particular transactions would be then just broadcast on the blockchain or written to the blockchain. Something else I want to note or mention, something that might be a little bit more controversial. I know many disagree with me, but I'm actually bullish on earning mechanics. And I don't necessarily think that that's a Web3 thing. I think the culture here breeds it. It's something that could be done in the Web2 space. I know and I agree full-heartedly that when we look at the P2E space of last year, there's no doubt that there are some inherent flaws. But some things that the teams I've been working with and working on projects with have been looking to implement or kind of under our advisory is really that revenue model being third party, as mentioned by Tech. When we look to advertising in particular is a great opportunity. It just poses some challenges, but it's something that we believe wholeheartedly is going to be very, very powerful. You just have to have a non-intrusive advertising stream. You have to have the daily active user audience, and you can't be going to gaming guilds paying for players per minute to then try and leverage that as advertising power. That just doesn't work. But if you can bring the players in and doing so with integration of streaming content and integration of social media interaction, simply having an opportunity within the game, if an accomplishment is achieved, to be able to then share that on social media directly from the game. Having spectator modes is one thing. We're working with one of our clients so that when players are competing within the tournaments in the game, content creators and streamers can come right in spectator mode and then pan the camera across the game and stream that live. And we'll actually be integrating that into some of the games on its own default broadcast from the project's channel. So there are a lot of ways to really onboard that aren't being utilized or tapped into, in my opinion. And I think that earning mechanics as a glorified profit sharing model, which could also pose some issues with regulation, depending on how regulations step into this space, are really opportunistic, and I'm quite bullish on them, to be honest.
Let's go with KG and then Yusuf.
What's up, Noah? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Man, thanks for putting on this space. Very cool space here. Yeah, Web3 gaming is, and thanks for inviting me as well. Yeah, Web3 gaming is a cool topic because it is kind of controversial. Everyone's brought up some amazing points. Also, shout out to Tech. Tech's awesome. But one thing that I like about Web3 gaming is I don't get to game as much as I used to. I'm a father and a husband now and a full-time career, but one of the games that I used to play very, very often was RuneScape. And if anyone's an old school RuneScape, don't even get me started on RuneScape 3. Old school RuneScape.
I could say the same about WoW, my friend. Don't get me started on retail, all about classic, but continue.
Yeah, don't get me started. Old school RuneScape. One thing, being older now, it's like if I go on a game and it has all these grind mechanics. And I'm grinding and I'm grinding and I'm grinding. I'm earning an in-game currency that is most likely inflationary and becoming devalued as I play the or inflationary. I apologize. And I'm playing, and it's becoming devalued as I play the game over time. Like when I first started playing RuneScape, if to have 1,000,000 gold was like, my gosh, you were a baller. But now I can go online to some weird sketchy third party and buy 1,000,000 gold for $1 because the game is hyperinflationary. So the currency gets devalued over time. But what's cool about Web3 gaming, or even if it doesn't make blockchain and it's still just you can earn real money in the game, it adds a layer of, well, first of all, real life reward. Now I can go buy groceries if I'm a grinder. So this paid or this play to earn style game, I personally see it as what's going to be the new sticky model of the future.
Yusuf.
Yeah, hey Noah, how are you?
Good, man. How are you? Welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say I think the fundamental issue when it comes to Web3 gaming are the basics of how it's created and the way it's gone about. So basically, when you're creating like the GDD, the game design document, when you're starting a game company or a game idea, the biggest thing is the concept of the game. Everything should revolve around the concept of the game and your target market and who you're appealing to. I think the biggest issue about Web3 is they are, instead of going around and creating a really well made game that has direct appeal to consumers, they are trying to create well made tokenomic models and well made financial models that incentivize people to buy the game because they make you earn tremendous amounts, etc. A good example of this is like if we look at something like Axie Infinity, right? That's pretty much the first huge Web3 success. The game revolved around SLP, Smooth Love Potion, and their whole tokenomics model about how your distributed funds when you won matches or if you're in the leaderboards, etc. But the game itself was incredibly boring because it was pretty much a bad version of Pokemon. Or a bad version of 7DS, and it was I as someone who tried playing the game and I bought Axes, I was incredibly bored after a very short time span. Like I pretty much quit after like a week of playing it, and I think that is partly to blame regarding the devs currently in Web3, and it's partly to blame about the technology and the mentality. First, I'm gonna start the mentality approach. Basically, if you look back at so most Web3 games are being built, or almost all of them are being built for PC. But all the PC games being built, Web3 PC games are taking the mobile game approach. It's very simple, very, not complex. I don't know what's the term for it, but basically, like your Holios, etc. Like those very simple games. And that's because, back in the day when the App Store first launched, you had a lot of these big studios like Activision, EA, etc. try coming on to the App Store and releasing iPhone games. But most of them, they even though they performed well, they got absolutely demolished by very simple games and indie studios like Rovio and PopCap. And the big misconception, I think, is the PC game studio is still very heavily centered around AAA games. Like AAA games pretty much dominate the whole PC space because you have that performance, and the PlayStation space. You have that performance basically to carry out those high level games. But all the Web3 developers, they're developing very simplistic model games for PC, which is why I believe they are intrinsically going to fail because the intrinsic value of those games is low because if you look at alternatives, like yes, I know those games are expensive, but you look at like your GTA's, your Call of Duties, your FIFA's, etc. They are so much better. Like the only reason anyone would, like, because let's say people have designated time in their day that's allocated to playing games. Why would someone play their Axie Infinity and earn like $10 per day if they are able to play their FIFA's or their Call of Duties? And I think that's partly to blame because of funding. Yes, because of Web3 is so new and not many VCs are willing to fund games that they can't develop these AAA games. With AAA games cost $40 to $80 million per game, so they can't really fund those expensive games. And you don't have the big studios really having crypto support. But I think it was also partly to blame about the mentality of bringing that. They're like, oh yeah, we can just design a very simple game and have high profit margins, like iOS games, like those very simple mobile games, like Angry Birds, for instance. So I think once there's more adoption in the space, maybe in the next bull cycle, and those big game studios have their eye on crypto, and the crypto adoption has increased, NFT adoption, play to earn adoption has increased. I think the biggest goal for Web3 gaming would be have those like Call of Duty games be replicated in something that like a Call of Duty style game or a Valorant style game or a CS:GO style game or whatever, replicated with features that like play to earn features or NFT features or like unique skins, etc. But I think currently the biggest issue is we're trying to take a mobile centered approach and bring it to desktop, and we're centering everything around play to earn. It shouldn't be centered around play to earn. The game should be already fun, and then once the game is fun, then you put in tokenomic models, etc. You can't bring a boring as hell game and be like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna play this because they can earn $10 per day in our token.
Do you mind if I just jump in quick on that one, Noah? I agree with like 99% of what you said, Yusuf. There's just one question you asked. Why would I want to play a game for $10 a day? Which I think is a very good question that we really have to ask ourselves over and over again in this space. And when we look at the gaming demographics around the world, of the 3 billion gamers that exist in the Web2 space, a large, vast majority of them are not in the Western world. And $10 a day does represent a whole lot of value to them when you're, say, living in a country like Venezuela, where the average income is $30 per month. If you can increase your income tenfold by not working in a factory or working out in a field in very poor working conditions, but actually be at home with your children playing a game, it presents a huge opportunity. I think the real challenge, though, is being able to balance that with having a quality game, as you mentioned. I mean, the fundamentals of a game don't change, whether it's Web2 or Web3. And I think the first project that's really going to blow this space up is the one that can balance that, be able to provide that distribution of wealth or that profit-sharing model to the mass audience that brings in heavy volume of daily active users around the world, regardless of the demographic or geographic location, but still provides that quality gaming opportunity to the gaming maxis who are here for the purpose of the game. It's that balance, I think, that's really going to disrupt the space.
I just would like to jump in quickly. I feel like that's like a very World Economic Forum approach that basically people are unproductive, etc., and they can't make funds elsewhere, should do things like play games, watch videos, etc., all day. I don't think people's main source of income should be playing games every single day. Even though it's very hard to create a token structure that's sustainable by people playing games all day. Yes, you can have advertisers. Yes, you can have inflationary structures. But at the end of the day, gaming wasn't created for people to earn income. Yes, it can have like a side benefit to retain users to have income models. But I'm very against having games solely for the purpose of earning income, because it is quite, if you compare it to like CBDCs, right? CBDCs basically disrupt the whole purpose of crypto. Crypto is created for decentralization. If you look at games were created for fun, to have entertainment. And if you're trying to take games and to suck out the fun and basically implement structures to be like, oh, you have to play the game to make a living. Like honestly, it'll become kind of a meme. Like imagine like you have your dad and he says, "Oh, sorry, son, I gotta go to work. Gotta play this game for 12 hours. I hate this game, etc." You don't want to turn something that you love and make it into something you hate, because no matter how good the game is, honestly, if it's mandatory and you play it to earn an income every single day, you will eventually hate it. I think games should stay in their current structure, which is to play for de-stress and stress relief, and to have fun. Having a full economic model to basically earn your yearly income from a game, I think is frankly ridiculous.
I think in the Western world we feel that way, but there are probably some individuals around the world who disagree. But again, I note the balance is necessary. The game has to be fun to actually allure the Western world or the larger demographic that brings the funding to supply that economy. But this is no different than any other market around the world, in which a lot of the third world is at the ground level doing the labor or putting the work in to sustain whatever product or infrastructure is being built out in that ecosystem and community. And the first world is funding that labor, right? I don't think it's much different than any other industry.
Right. I see a lot of hands up. I want to jump in here really quick. One, I want to introduce everyone to Yusuf. Yusuf was announced as an advisor to Whalecoin Talk last week. He's a brilliant entrepreneur. He's CEO of YCO. He's featured in Forbes, TEDx, Unilat. So Yusuf, I just proper welcome, and he always adds great value to these panels. I think Yusuf and Anthony are maybe agreeing for the most part, but disagreeing on some small points. At the end of the day, if you think about, for example, I'm going to use World of Warcraft. It's a great game that some people have spent a decade of their life playing, and they play it for fun. However, there are microeconomies in WoW where people from Venezuela, people from Lebanon, people from Iran, people in countries with people in countries with hyperinflation are playing this game all day because it is much easier to earn income rather than going into some office job in that country, right? They're able to earn dollars from people in the West that want to buy gold on the black market instead of go and farm it themselves. This economy will always exist. So how can a Web2 game, traditionally Web2 game, capture that value right? One way that I think of is an NFT marketplace. But again, we can go down that rabbit hole in a bit. A lot of hands are up, and I'm so sorry, guys. I'm I have lost track of who was first. Exceed, I brought you down for a second. I brought you back up. Exceed hasn't talked yet, so I'm going to let him jump
Mech has had his hand up even longer than me.
Oh, oops. Sorry, Mech.
Exceed, you go ahead. I started writing down my talking points. I'm a vet at this, so I'm not going to forget what I got to say. You take the floor, and then I'll jump in right after.
Thanks, David. Appreciate you. Well, guys, this is a fascinating conversation. I mean, I'm a lifelong gamer, and I love hearing this discourse, and I think there's some amazing points being brought up. And I personally have never gamed in any sort of play to earn fashion, but it certainly is fascinating. And I want to touch on something that Anthony brought up, which is the idea of not necessarily play to earn models, but community centric ownership and ability to receive, I suppose, revenue or income from a game, but not necessarily in a play to earn model, but more from a shareholder type model, which I think is one of the most interesting promises of Web3, which is an internet, owned by users and builders and governed by tokens. Now, governance is a whole nother conversation, and I think there's lots of interesting perspectives on governance, both from a fully decentralized perspective and from a more kind of curated perspective where the platform curates the governance and allows people to come in and give their opinions, and there's that sort of back and forth and dialogue. But what I want to talk about more specifically is this concept of an internet owned by users and builders, right? And what does that mean? A huge part of that is people being able to earn money from being a part of what they support or participating in the building and just in general this internet, right? And this goes to gaming. And I think, of course, that piques my interest as Exceed because we are an SEC compliant platform that allows fans and investors to invest in revenue streams of talent, but that also includes games or film products that people want to maybe make a film or a Netflix show and they want to raise funding and basically IPO their product. So I think there's actually a tremendous opportunity here for games to live up to this sort of Web3 ethos or promise, but do it with one foot in the now, which includes SEC compliance, playing by the rules, and making sure that these investments are safe for your average investor. Now, no investment is completely safe, right? There's risk in investing, but doing so in a way that's compliant and allows these players and these evangelists and early adopters of these games to invest and be part of those, be part of a sort of IPO-esque ecosystem for these games where they can earn separate from a play to earn model that may be, intrinsic to the game. So I think that's really fascinating. And Anthony, you brought that up. How can we get there, right? And I think getting there includes being mindful of SEC compliance, taking the time to do things right so people can invest and invest safely and invest with peace of mind and know that, hey, I am a builder. I'm part of this movement of Web3 that allows me to be an owner and a builder and a participant at the same time. So, that's something that I think is really fascinating, and we're trying to pioneer it, Exceed. Right now, we're focused on music. We're actually releasing soft shell here, but we're releasing Little Durk's next song. We're going to be fractionalizing ownership into that single, and we're going to allow fans and investors an opportunity to own a piece of the royalty streams from that music and basically be a partner in Little Durk's career. And again, we're doing this within SEC compliance. We are using NFTs as a delivery mechanism to get people to participate so people can participate in the IPO through NFT ownership. But again, we're firmly rooted in how can we be compliant with the SEC? How can we make sure that these are legitimate, safe investments? These are not fly-by-night rugs, and bring people with assurances and, and just really respect into saying, hey, I can become an investor in this thing. I can be a part of it. I can be a part of Web3, an internet that's owned by users and builders. So I wanted to piggyback on that, Anthony, because I thought that was like a really interesting and important point to bring up in this conversation.
Before I go to Mech and then Ian, I see a lot of requests that come up, guys. I'm limited on the number of spots I can give. So if you have a question, shoot me a DM. with the question so that I know who to bring up. But I'm trying to get everyone on here as best as I can. Mac, the mic's yours.
Oh shit! Thanks, guys. But yeah, earlier when I was saying the hyper casual gaming, what I really meant was something like Angry Birds, like Candy Crush. I mean, those are still around today, and once they became popularized, they just scaled immensely, and that's what we're going to end up seeing from certain Web3 games. And we actually coined the phrase crypto casual. I'm pretty sure it's trademarked by now. I know Trey and Kyle wouldn't really tell me to mention it unless they already handled all of the legal bases. So that's really what we're doing. And also the ownership aspect, I don't want to downplay that at all. Like that is huge, guys. I mean, what you can do in some of these projects, in some of these ecosystems, you'll actually be able to build what you want, create your own skins, and own them. I mean, us over here at Mech, we're talking to some of the biggest creators in the Roblox ecosystem. Just like World of Warcraft, I mean, Roblox, that is prime for innovation, and they're $1 billion corporation, and they're going to continue to grow and scale. So being able to own something like that, being able to, for some of these companies out here who actually build games for brands, I mean, they will be able to own that and actually give it to the brands, as opposed to being, at the mercy of the other platforms that they're dealing with. So that's a huge thing in Web3 that I really don't want anybody to overlook. So just wanted to bring that up. And yeah, guys, Exceed, Anthony. Oh shit, Anthony, you're one of my favorite fast talkers on the planet.
Ian, you've been patiently waiting, sir. Ian,
no problem.
sorry, I did it again.
It's all good. It's all good. So there's two things that I just want to discuss. We talked about, a lot of you guys have talked about the play to earn or earning mechanism. Well, why not just walk before we run, right? So there are earning mechanisms in every game. Okay, you're earning gems, you're earning all these different things in Web2. But why not just make it so there's a simple supply and demand? So off of what David was saying with Mech, where yes, there's ownership. Well, great, you're earning to level up your cards. You're leveling up your characters to make them more powerful, to get to next levels. So what you were saying, Noah, it's the marketplace. It's a simple supply and demand where at this point, they're earning what they normally know to earn, but because they've purchased, let's say, these in-game assets, they're not NFTs that basically they own. At that point, then there's an opportunity to say, great, I have this card that is a rare collectible card that might be a level 5 that somebody might want. Maybe they want it as a collectible. Maybe they just don't want to sit and grind and get to level 5, but they want to start competing with their friends that are already on level 5, right? So therefore, it's a sustainable economy, and there's no tokenomics whatsoever having to do with it. And I think that based off of what you are seeing, Exceed, that kind of gets rid of the SEC stuff, where it's not having to worry about what these earning mechanisms for this tokenomics and all the stuff that go into it. The one thing that nobody has brought up that we're focused on is why require crypto to actually purchase NFTs. It's not necessary. You don't have to do it, right? NFTs, just like they're legal, right? They're just a in-game piece of ownership or digital ownership. So therefore, why require somebody to have a wallet? Why require somebody to have ETH or anything having to do with these different blockchains to be able to go into a game and purchase it? Why require somebody to have an NFT to start playing a game? Instead, why not just onboard them just like Web2, set up an account just like Web2, you set up a custodial wallet. Okay, great, we're gonna do it for you. Guess what? You don't even know that it's a Web3 or we call it Web 2.5. And therefore, when you purchase something and we're mobile, you double click your phone, right? You press, okay, I'm willing to go ahead and buy this asset. Thank you, Apple. And yes, there's all of this FUD having to do with 30% platform fees. But guys, there's 30% platform fees on any single platform that you go to. So it doesn't really matter if you guys want to go to Steam, Epic, Xbox, all of them have the same thing. So that being said, why not just onboard the person with fiat? Then when they're ready, if they're ready, again, they're gamers, right? 10, 15, 20% might be like, yes, let me see how much my stuff's worth. The one thing we don't talk about are dads, right? So dads who are constantly spending money for their kids to double click the phone, and therefore they have $100 of Roblox or Minecraft stuff on their iTunes account. Boy, when that kid is not playing that game anymore, to be able to say, even if I make 10 cents off the dollar, to get rid of this crap, right? That in itself is a whole different segment that nobody talks about. We're all talking about the gamers. What about the dads that fund the stuff for the little kids, right? So there's all these different things that I think that, you know, we can continuously talk about and not necessarily talk about the Web3 elements so much as tokenomics and blockchain and all the things that go along with it, but just, you know, the simple bit of ownership with not requiring crypto to own these things. And then once they're into it, if they want to trade them, that's when you teach them, right? Let them like the game first, let them get into the ecosystem. And then they're like, wow, there's $50 for me to have there. What do I need to do? Great. Step one, open a wallet. Step two, X, Y, Z. And now you're sold it. So I think it's just an evolution of what we need to do as founders to just take a step back and understand that 96% of the world could care less about crypto. And if we can take that mechanism and that strategy and that philosophy and that approach, then I think that what's going to start to happen is the technology that we're all talking about is null and void, and it's just noise that we're all talking about as founders. But when it's all said and done, it's all about the end user and how they can be successful in the game. And then, you know, holding their hands to see, okay, is there anything more to it that you're saying having to do with ownership?
KG.
Yes, Ian, well elaborated. That you brought up a lot of Ian. Sorry, I apologize. I caught that one there.
Yeah, just Ian at this point. It's all good.
All right, cool. All right, cool. Sorry, bro. Well, you brought up a lot of important points because not just in Web3 gaming, but in crypto in general, one of the biggest, if not the biggest obstacle is the onboarding experience. It's difficult. It's in a lot of ways clunky. It's scary. So telling these Web2 gamers who are big, or just in general, hey, this value proposition of, you know, non-custodial asset earning, yeah, what does that mean to them? So there has to be some middle ground, but there also has to be that education. And I loved what you brought up about the dads because, yes, I know a lot of people who are spending a lot of money for their kids on, like you said, Roblox, insert game here. But even me as a gamer growing up, being a historic lifetime gamer, I have all these incredible accounts on all these games that represent hundreds or thousands of hours of my life. And I can't do anything with them. I've tried to sell one of my old school RuneScape accounts. I used to play this game called Wizard 101. Laugh if you want. I'm a card gamer, so Wizard 101 went off. I have an amazingly stacked Wizard 101 account. Can't do anything with it. Man, if some of the cards I had were NFTs in that game, my goodness, I could probably go on a nice vacation with the fam right now. So we spend all this time investing in games that don't have any return other than if it's bringing us joy in our life. Okay, well, that's obviously a return that you can't put a dollar on. But now that joy has dissipated, I'm left with nothing. So finding a way, not necessarily, like Youssef also brought it up really eloquently as well. We can't put how to make money first and then make the game enjoyable second. I could see it being the other way around. Hey, let's take an already enjoyable game model and put a way that we can actually reward our players so that when they spend time here, it's not hurting their real life. Because, again, my little brother, he plays Call of Duty sometimes 8 hours a day. He loves it, brings him joy. But as he's focusing on that game, he's in some ways hurting his real life. He's not cleaning his house. He's not going to the gym. He's not paying attention to his diet. He's not doing things that are going to reward his life in otherwise healthy ways. So I do think we have to find that balance.
Can I quickly respond to both KG and Mr. Bentley?
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't know if it's Ian or Ian. I'm gonna call you Bentley. I think I confused it earlier, but
I've been called worse.
He touched on something where it's like you onboard them with fiat, right? And to do that, first you have to have a strong business sense. You have to actually establish a business, right? In order to have all these accounting practices and all this stuff. But someone who did that in this space is Vivi, right? Like they were able to align themselves with some very high license, very popular products with huge communities, and upon them releasing these things, it took off immediately. And then, as time went on, they exposed their end users to, the whole blockchain wallet concept, exchange of gems, and all this other stuff. And then you have what KG is speaking about, right? Like we could build up all of these things. It doesn't mean there's going to be a demand in order for you to, or market, there's a whole demand supply concept. So it really comes down to like if you had a Babe Ruth card, right, and you have that to this day, there's always going to be a demand for that, right? Major League Baseball is huge, millions of fans across the world, right? And that's what you need. Like we need massive amount of buy-in and participation in order for any of this to take off. And we spoke about how early it is. Like everyone is starting their own thing, right? Everyone's starting their own thing, but it almost feels like it has to, at some point, this all has to come into funnel through one bigger decentralized entity in order to have those eyeballs to make them aware that you might have something of value, or these things are cross products that can somehow that value moves across these platforms. I just wanted to contribute that. You need big money. You need history. You need culture. You need time and environment to build these communities. And if you build something good, a game that's worth playing, and the people will come. But it's more than just the NFTs. It's there's a lot of pieces that have to also be solved beyond that.
Anthony, and then Mac.
Man, the conversation is going in such a beautiful direction. I'm glad you brought up the topic you did. One, I'd like to connect with you on a personal level. I'll drop you a DM after this Twitter space. But I think we're very well aligned. And this kind of has been alluded to by everybody. When we look at the mass consumer doesn't care about the tech behind what the product is or the service is. They care about the experience. When the internet became mass adopted, nobody cared about TCP protocol. The innovators cared. The mass consumer cared that they could go on a website and find information about a product or a company that they cared about. Nobody cares, the mass consumption level at retail, when they can go to Walmart and get everything in a centralized, whole store, or they can go to multiple different mom and pop shops and get what they want. They want convenience. They want experience that's positive, quick, and seamless. And the topic you brought up about making that available with the Web3 in the back end, that's how I foresee the future of the space personally, is that everything is going to be on the back end. We have one of our clients, I guess a soft shell here too, Homie Wars, and what we're doing with that is within the game, we have that fiat on-ramping. We want that custodial wallet. We don't want anyone to know it's a Web3 game. Web3 savvy people will be aware of it. It'll be, the narrative will be shared here in the communities. And I think a lot of projects have to go that route, because when you look at your campaigns that are looking for mass adoption, the 3 billion gamers, not the less than 1 million gamers, you have to make it a seamless, positive experience for them. Nobody likes to learn before getting the benefit. They want to see why it's beneficial, and then they'll go to their way to learn. And that's how we can onboard them into the Web3 ecosystem, by showing them what's great about these added values, educating them on it. And then, as you mentioned, Ian, at their own pace, they will progress if they wish. Nobody wants a salesman beating on the door telling them to buy something. They want to see what the value is in that, and then make their own informed decision. And I think that's the opportunity we have, is to educate everybody through that process.
100%. And I'll just respond back. And I know Mac wants to chat, but the thing about every single successful company is the 4-letter acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? And Apple is a perfect example of exactly taking something that is so damn complicated and just having a hello world, right? One simple ad, right? How simplified can you be in order to get the mass adoption to buy into something that's so damn complicated? And listen, we're all part of emerging technology, right? Everybody here, most of you are gamers, Exceed. I'd love to chat with you about the music stuff. But we're all here trying to push an emerging technology in a shitty market, right? But we're constantly saying that the market is bad, but gamers are still gaming, so it don't matter, right? But that being said, it's the keep it simple, stupid mentality that we have to use for marketing, that we have to use for language, that we have to use for onboarding. Nobody cares about the condenser in the new refrigerator that makes the ice that you like to crunch with the whiskey, right? Nobody cares about the copper tubes, okay? and you just want to make sure that you get the good cubes, right? As opposed to the old shitty cubes that taste like stale water. So it's not focusing on the technology for the people that you're trying to onboard. You just have to have a good product, a good message, and obviously, the stars need to align. I mean, there's tons of builders right now, but the stars need to align for a lot of us for us to be incredibly successful. We're up against, I think we probably have 24 to 36 months before the titans of the world are all into NFTs and mass adoption. So we have this small sliver of opportunity to build and to make something very special as the OGs of this space. After that, there's not going to be these opportunities that we have to be able to compete against Xbox and Sony. So what we need to do, just like you said, Anthony, is just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Don't require crypto for the 96% of the people that don't have crypto in the world. Just get them in, and then education afterwards to teach them that it's not all Ponzi. It's not all right-click, snapshot, monkey JPEGs that they might have in their head that they think are NFTs. But instead, it's like you actually own something and it might be worth something, and here's how to find out. And I think if we just take those mentalities as founders and as brands, I think that it will allow the path to lighten up a lot more than just focusing on all of the technology that we're all in our little bubble with.
Well said, Mac. You're next.
Yeah, I completely agree. And as I've been listening to you other speakers, holy shit, my notepad is like from top to bottom of my screen right now. But what someone else mentioned earlier made me remember something that I'm saying in a lot of these spaces out here. And while everybody's going around saying we need to onboard Web2 to Web3, something that I've been telling everybody for at least the past month and a half is what we really need to do is bring Web3 to Web2. And you do that through education. We're not going to get everybody to come on the NFT bandwagon, which is why I've been saying digital collectibles ever since Reddit did it. What they did, I mean, stroke of pure genius. Millions of people onboarded in a matter of seconds, to be honest. And, they did that with Polygon, everything in the back end. And I mean, soft shell is the meta of this spaces, so don't hold it against me, guys. But that's what we're looking to do as well. They're one of our VC investors, and having a name like mech.com. In the past month, we've had over 1 million people hit our website, and that really got us thinking that we need to capitalize on that. So we're going to be looking into how we can really build on that moving forward. But another thing somebody mentioned, parents. I mean, holy shit, that's huge, and I can't hear it enough. In our economy, in our ecosystem, in MEC, what actually was one of the driving factors were parents. Like, I'm friends with a lot of these mods in there who are getting what we're doing, getting the land to try to build games with their kids for their kids. I mean, these assets are actually worth money at the time. You don't really want to let your children be in control of thousands of dollars worth of digital collectibles. Shit happens, and hey, I mean, I'm careful of what I do. I'm not smart enough to know what's right and what's wrong, so I just listen to the professionals. So having parents in control of these things is, imperative, especially right now. And hey, someone else mentioned TCG. I mean, card games. Shit, I used to play Magic the Gathering like my whole childhood. So I was actually part of MTGO, and that was like the pre-NFT of NFTs. You were able to actually buy, sell, and trade those cards on a secondary market in there. So love what somebody said about that. And shit, VV2, I've got one of those Marvel things. I mean, this is an awesome spaces, guys. I actually canceled my meeting while I was here because I don't want to leave. But shit, I just gave every one of you speakers a follow, and I even scrolled down and gave a few of the non-speakers a follow. And Noah, Whale Talk, you guys are lit. Love this spaces.
I really appreciate the kind words, Mac, and it's a pleasure to have you on, as well as everyone else. I see hands up. I wanted to just break there for a second. I think we all agree that the future of interfacing with Web3 is in a way where users don't realize they're interfacing with Web3, right? So they're not going through the 3 to 16 transactions that we make, whether it's staking or entering an LP or borrowing against their assets, whatever you might call it. I'm more of like a Web2, Web3 hybrid fan. I think that's kind of what I see happening in the near future or foreseeable future. One of the questions I ask myself, though, is what incentives do Web2 companies have, these big studios have, to even come over to Web3, right? They have all the control. They make all the money. the player is the product, or rather the I guess if it's free, you're the product. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not gonna. But one of the things that I'm thinking, I think, take it back to World of Warcraft, is there are so many items that people accrued back in 2005 that are they're novelty items today. And if there was a proprietary Blizzard NFT marketplace that, let's say, the world first Hand of Ragnaros player could go and sell that item on, I guarantee you it would go for probably over $1 million. There's someone that would buy it for that amount. And if that NFT marketplace took a 5% cut, well, that would go to Blizzard, and Blizzard Activision, they love money. I don't see why they wouldn't go for that. But what incentive do these big studios have to even jump over to Web3? Sorry to change the subject. I know that we were having a lot of hands up, but I think Anthony was next in line, so I'll pass the mic.
Yeah, just before I answer that question, quick, I was just going to say I am one of those dads that had to put the parental controls on the kids' iPads because they were going wild. And I really like that topic of having parents involved, because that is such an integral step in making things family accessible and family friendly. But to answer your question, Noah, as bullish as I am on this space and as optimistic as I am, I'm a little concerned that right now, other than maybe some small additional revenue streams, these AAA studios don't have an incentive to be here. Other than trying to monopolize the market and make sure that other up-and-comers don't become more relevant or start to gain traction, become relevant, I don't see any reason for them to. I mean, right now the market segment is very small, so the revenue streams are kind of abysmal to them in comparison to what the costs are to build the infrastructure here. And if we look at realistically any move to come over, they already have all the cards. They have all the money. So unless they see this market emerging at a rapid rate in which they're going to have additional competitors evolve in the space, I don't see them having a reason to. But I think that those are fears in the back of their minds. And of course, that's why we see them testing the waters a little bit and seeing what's going on over here.
Let me just jump in
Mac.
really quick. I have the complete opposite view. I believe the incentives are actually astronomical, that these companies will not be able to ignore them. First of all, NFTs are actually the best and most powerful form of a loyalty program ever created in history. The type of data that these companies will be able to get from NFTs, from their players, from the members of their community, I mean, it's not the same level as what you can get from a pixel from an email list. So that's one thing. I mean, the technology we have here in Web3 blows everything in Web2 out of the water, to be honest. And it can be built on, it can be improved, and there's still room for innovation. Another huge form of revenue from these big corporations. I mean, when you add that little 5-10% fee or royalties on these digital collectibles, I'm telling you, they're going to make a lot more money over 5-10 years in selling these games. Once they go out of style, like once one of these games stops being on sale, they're still going to be tradable. Eventually, they will appreciate, as long as there is a desire for them. And, that's another department of these corporations. That's what the marketing team does, guys. Don't think that they're going to sleep on that, because they're not. So, I mean, another thing, they're going to have a token too. Like tokens and how that technology works, my opinion, it's better than a gift card. They can make it so that it won't be tradable on certain exchanges. They can have it so that it's in their control. But the technology that we have here is something that these corporations around the world will not be able to ignore.
Yeah, so I mentioned that 24 to 36 month period that we all have. If you guys don't think that they're all building, they all have a division in which they are making sure that they're prepared in the event that we actually are successful. You guys are crazy, because Sony just came out with their blockchain patent. I mean, they're actually there. Okay, so I feel that what's going to happen is they're letting us test the waters. They're letting us see, exactly what's going to happen with in-game ownership. But I do believe one of the things that we haven't talked about is what you can do with a NFT. Like, for example, what we have planned on our roadmap at WAGMI is the ability to fuse two NFTs, a human and an alien, to create a new species. You can't do that unless you own the NFTs, which at that point is going to create more of a deflationary mechanism to the in-game assets, and at the same time create this amazing amount of buzz having to do with what you currently own. So what it's going to do is it's going to have an opportunity, if they market it properly, you're going to be able to stir up some stale gamers to say you already own these things. You don't need to do very much other than X, Y, and Z. And then what winds up happening, you get them back into the game, they start buying more stuff. So I think that what's going to happen is they're going to start figuring out that there are a lot of creative ways to be able to leverage the technology, but they're building in the background. They're not going to tell you that they're building, but of course Sony comes out, with their blockchain patent. So I do feel that the one thing that they're probably going to try to do is not let their NFTs, and I think you mentioned it, Noah, if there was a Blizzard only marketplace, they're going to try to put limits on what you can sell. So like you can't sell anything that's going to compete against the actual brand. But if you get to X level 2, 3, or 4, which the brand is already sold to you and you're not going to undercut the brand, therefore there's a marketplace for it. I believe that they're going to try to do that first. It's going to work in some form, but at the same time, it's not completely ownership and decentralized. But I think that, again, it's going to be one of those walk before you run. And I think that all of those types of mechanisms are the ways that these brands are going to start actually implementing things here in the next 2 to 3 years.
Gus.
Yes, I mean, Ian, I really agree with a lot of things that you have already mentioned in terms of the game and everything. I mean, you seem that you're gonna reach somewhere with your project. I mean, you know the tricks. In general, the question, Noah, AAA studios, all these publishers, I think they are all waiting. I mean, everybody started to jump into that GameFi, into play to earn, into implementing NFTs when the bull run was happening. And these guys are smart. Once the bear market started, they decide just to wait on the side. And I think they're all looking at what is happening in the industry. As Ian said, everybody has a division. Ubisoft had a game. They just put it off the market right now. They are just not developing it further. Why? Like for the question for these gaming companies, it's why to build right now where they can just grab a full-fledged product later on. They can just acquire a company. They have the big pockets if they want to control the market. So in general, that's it. I think that's simply what all these publishers are looking at. Yeah.
I want to welcome Scott to the panel. Scott, you have your hand up, and I want to pass you the mic.
Hey, thanks a lot, Noah. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Scott Herman. I'm actually a developer at WAGMI Games with Ian. I've been jumping in and out of here in between meetings, so I'm sorry if somebody already talked about this earlier, but some of the things that I talk about a lot when I'm explaining Web3 gaming to people, I heard somebody mention earlier RuneScape. I grew up playing RuneScape, got me through college. But there's a lot of games that I actually just don't even play anymore that I really enjoyed, just because I don't have time to do all the grinding, right? Like I loved playing Destiny, but I don't play Destiny anymore because I couldn't grind enough to get the raid weapons because I have a full-time job, I have a family, and when I do have time to play games, I have to pick and choose where I place that time because the boys always want to play Call of Duty, and if I'm going to do any kind of grinding, I save that time for a game like Zelda, which is one of my favorite games. But another thing that I talk about, because I'm coming from the creator side as a creator on YouTube, one of the things that kind of gets me, so I play a game called Dokkan Battle on my phone. It's a Dragon Ball Z game. I spend lots of money on this game because I'll make videos and I'll play the game with my community on a live stream. I get duplicates of all the best characters in the game because I can afford the in-game digital currency to summon on banners to get new characters. And so when I talk to creators and they're like, oh, yeah, NFTs, it's scary. My community doesn't like it. And I was like, well, your community will love it if they realize that if they're watching you on a live stream, that by the end of that live stream, let's say you're doing summons on a banner like I'm doing, if I give away all my duplicates, even just for free to my community, they're going to want to tune in a lot more. So apart from like all the great things everybody was saying from the business side, where all the extra money can be made and the brand loyalty and the metrics and all that stuff, from the creator side, we're now giving creators a way to interact with their communities even more. And I think that's going to create a lot of excitement as well.
I think we had Anthony. There we go.
Yeah, I just want to say some brilliant points have been made. And again, I want to preface that I am bullish on this space, Web3 gaming as a whole. Just to be transparent, my partner here, Krishant, and I's entire client portfolio is centered around Web3 gaming right now. We're working hard in this space. But to get back to that question, and I want to touch on what Scott said afterwards, but to get back to that question that was asked, Noah, is the incentive for corporations this technology that we're all bullish on. I mean, I love interoperability. I love composability. I love asset ownership. I love earning mechanisms. All of these things bring a great added value. But if we look from a corporate business perspective, if you're the CFO of one of these major corporations and you're looking at the risk mitigation, you're assessing what kind of ROI you're looking at, what kind of cost of infrastructure, and what's going to happen, and the volatility of the space, I still don't necessarily see any incentivization within those technologies because these are all available to these players without Web3 technology. They can implement this in a centralized capacity. Web3 represents that decentralization, and it's the shift of power away from them. So again, getting back to that point, I think the real value or incentive for them is to maintain relevancy. If the community thrusts this upon the markets, if this emerging market explodes because of the community here, and I think Scott alluded to a really good point there with content creators, that's the movement that is going to bring their attention. When the consumers are begging for it, when the consumers are excited about it, when the consumers are investing in it, that's when they'll come. And that's the only incentive, in my opinion. I don't think the tech really presents anything to them because they can do that on their own in Web2 and they can monopolize the hell out of it. But if we as a community within this Web3 ecosystem drive this, whether it be players of the games, content creators, streamers, young indie studios, business owners and founders all thriving together and showing signs of success in the market, sustaining beyond just a simple little bull run, I think that's when they're going to close in. And I do agree with Ian's timeline of 2 to 3 years before they come in and take the market share.
So a lot of my friends that play WoW, still play WoW, don't necessarily like crypto. They don't like NFTs. And I think many folks on here have brought up the notion of not using the term NFT. You can use asset ownership. You can use digital collectible. I know that Reddit has gone and done that, and it's been successful. So language is important. And as we discussed earlier, I mentioned that, and many people have mentioned on our platform before that it's important for Web3 to feel like Web2. People don't want to deal with the transactions and the wallet creation and all that stuff. So, but bringing it back to the players, how do you convey to all these Web2 players, which surprisingly a lot of them don't like crypto, they find it to be a scam, but how do you articulate that, hey, you just spent 10 years of your life playing this game and you have items on this account that would hypothetically be able to sell for an enormous amount of money, but you can't actually sell them. You don't own anything. I look at my WoW account that I started in 2005, and I know for a fact there are items on there that I could probably sell for at least a few $10,000, at least, maybe even $100,000. So how do we express this? How do we convey this to gamers that, hey, this is something convince these Web2 users? How do we convince these gamers, these Web2 gamers that, hey, this is something that you guys should be vocal about, right? Because unless the vast majority of them are vocal and are articulating to the studios that, hey, we want this. I want to be able to own all the stuff on my account, right? It's just sitting there collecting dust. And if you guys create, and Mech, you made a great point, but if you guys, or I think it was, I don't know who it was, but if you guys make a proprietary NFT marketplace that is just for your game, you can charge a percentage on that transaction, right? So Blizzard Entertainment, you guys come, you guys build an MMO, right? You own it, you own the MMO. We can go down the path of player ownership and whether or not players should own part of the game. I'm sure let's have that debate, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, you own the MMO, Blizzard, right? But the players own the assets on their accounts because you're not earning money from those assets anyway. They're sitting there collecting dust, and you can charge transaction fees on those microtransactions, not just with items. You have, again, you have people in developing countries that are farming gold and selling it on the black market. You're losing money there, right? You can ban as many accounts as you want. People are going to spin up new ones, right? Classic WoW has a huge botting problem, and Blizzard's not doing anything about it. So you guys love money so much. This is a way for you to capture value that's already there. So I know how I would articulate it, but how do you articulate it to the players in a way that they could be a collective and enormous voice when they're engaging with the studios that are building the game? Anyway, that's kind of the end of my the point that I'm trying to make. Let's go Fake, because Fake just hopped on the panel. Let's go Fake, Mech, and KG.
Hey, can you guys hear me very well?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, and I do apologize ahead of time. I either have the flu or I have COVID again, so this will be a little bit tough for me to get through. But I think the thing that Web3 needs most is, obviously it's in a very pioneering stage with new ground being forged in terms of just gaming. They're going to need a killer app, right? They're going to need that one game. It's not going to have to be this big effort, this big movement of quality. It just needs to happen one time, and all the big AAA developers will take notice. You look at things like, I grew up in console gaming my entire life for the past 34 years. So I think back to Xbox only needed Halo to sell the Xbox. Call of Duty can sell anything now, basically. I know people who buy a console just to play Call of Duty, or they'll buy a PC to play it, whatever. Eventually, there's going to be that developer that makes something good enough in Web3, either in the era of Web3 or using Web3 mechanics that is attractive enough to really spark the movement. But I don't think that we're there just yet. That's just my 2 cents on it. I'm a little foreign to Web3 gaming, but I'm very fluent in, gaming in a more traditional sense. And that's something that I think correlates well with Web3, and it's going to need to happen moving forward.
I think it was Mech.
Yeah, when it comes to that, all right, first off, I want to tell everybody, good thing that you came back, because this space, now that we had that one technical issue, you know that this is legit. Something I always say, if there's no bugs going on, if something doesn't happen in a Twitter Spaces, it might be a scam, and you guys better go lock your wallets. But what you were just saying, I mean, that's pretty much how we see it too, except I believe that the technology's there. We're going to see a ton of new things pop up next year, because what the meta's been is everybody's building. Markets are wrecked. It's hard to make money, even though we've done a lot of sales over here at Mech. I mean, it's really hard to get something sold out. And, the meta right now is just continue to build. And next year, a lot is going to be brought into the markets. A lot's going to be showcased to everybody. Hey, look what we've been doing. And that technology is there. What really isn't there is those top quality AAA games. I mean, something like Call of Duty, something like those console games, to be able to integrate this NFT digital collectible technology into it. I mean, we might have to wait until 2024 to see that one, but next year, guys, oh man, I'm telling you, we're going to see a lot of big things pop up.
Anthony.
The answer to this question, I think, was alluded to by Ian very well earlier. And it's something that we're very well aligned on, and how we're approaching with our clients. If you want to convey this message to the mass consumer, I don't think articulating is the way to do it yet. I think that's a follow-up step in your sales process. I think the best way to do this is through user experience. And what we're looking to do, and from the same things Ian's doing as well, is providing that seamless, familiar experience, changing the narrative, focusing on what the value is to the user in the simplest form, as you mentioned, KISS. So, looking to have custodial wallets on the back end, register with the username or password and an email and password, either or, whatever's convenient, or using social logins with that type of integration. Having the assets held within that custodial wallet, the user doesn't need to know that they own an NFT. They don't need to know that that game currency they purchased is a cryptocurrency. What they need to know is that it has the value that they're desiring, and the value proposition equates to something that they're willing to spend on that. And then providing that quality experience in which those assets have a value, in which they can be utilized in an effective way, having that functionality and that moment by moment experience that's fun for a gamer. And if you can hit those nails on the head, I think then when you start to convey the message or take that narrative to the public in which, okay, now you own these assets and you can actually take these to a secondary market and the value on them can increase, or at the very least you can recoup your funds like you did 20 years ago when you took your PlayStation game back to GameStop and sold it. And in the same sense, when we start looking at decentralized raising and finance and the token value and earning mechanics, these are all other opportunities to educate the mass audience. But again, it's not. Sorry, I think I got a call there saying, hey, come look at this cool stuff. It's saying, hey, look, you're loving what you're doing right now. By the way, did you know about this? And then giving them the tools and resources to educate themselves and walking them through the process, but doing it at their own pace so that they're comfortable. People much appreciate something when they think it's their own idea as opposed to when someone's forcing it upon them, no matter how beneficial it may be to them.
Anthony, do you think the future is what Reddit did, where we're basically like all of a sudden you have or an NFT, but you don't know it, like you said, where like basically a game or anything, and all of a sudden you have an NFT wallet and you don't, maybe you never use it, but it's just there, and all of a sudden you find you have a hex code, and then maybe you get like onboarded into NFTs through that.
That's exactly the route that we're looking to take with the majority of our clients. Less those that already have a business model in place that shows signs of promise. I think that's the method. Think back when we first got into crypto as users, if we didn't have the education on how to create a MetaMask wallet or whatever wallet you wish to use on whatever chain you wish to use, and they go through that process of learning about blockchain technology, this is a serious barrier to entry. And for the average consumer, it's too much barrier to entry with not enough value proposition for them. How's it going, my friend? So I personally believe that, yes, having it on the back end is the great introduction. And then when they see the value, presenting that to them accordingly and then guiding them along.
So yeah, I mean, DH or D-Hype, you made a great point, and we've been harping on that throughout the course of the space before it rebooted. But the future of Web3 is people interfacing with it without recognizing that they're doing so, whether that's gaming, whether it's DeFi, or anything else. Not going through those transactions, not going through those steps, not having to deal with storing their private keys on a piece of paper and burying it in their backyard, and that's not where my private keys are buried. I'm just saying, Ian. Sorry, Ian. God, I keep doing that. Ian, Mike's yours, sir. Sorry about that.
It's Aaron. No, I'm kidding. So
as long as it's on Enron.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, game first, guys. That's it, right? We're talking about gaming, and I know there's other people that are, doing other projects that we're talking about. But whatever you're focused on, the product, it's the product first, right? It's crypto and NFTs and all that stuff is secondary. So because the bottom line, and Mac, David, I think you mentioned that somebody can put together a hyper casual game.
Did I DC or did
my phone?
DC? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that was my phone. Yeah,
no
as far as hyper casual to be able to create a game in a month, there's a 1 in a million chance that anybody is going to play it, right? I mean, you can go to Fiverr and get a jumper game, right? I think that we saw every single NFT collection that's not currently building right now. Basically spent 10-15 grand on a Fiverr jumper game and said we have a play to earn game, right? That doesn't exist. It's not good. It's not going to work. It's all about, can you create a brand? Can you create a game? And, D-Hype, the process is simple, right? It's a regular onboarding, just like they would onboard with anything else. And you just set up a wallet on their behalf. And what we're doing, because we're integrated with Immutable X, we have no gas, right? So we're able to do is we're able to have somebody purchase something in our app, double click the phone with fiat, and then we just airdrop them their in-game assets in the form of NFTs, and then the game database just basically is constantly updating the NFT so that, you know, if they do want to sell the game or sell their NFTs in a level 3 or level 4 in GameStop Marketplace, they can, right? They own it. So it's really just not letting the consumer really care about the back-end technology. It's all about, do you have a good game, you know, as far as gaming is concerned first. And then at that point, it's like, if they like the game, they're going to continue to play the game. As they level it up, you just have small little snippets of educational funnels within the interludes of the game. And then all of a sudden, there's that barrier of entry or that wall of, I hate crypto, or I don't know crypto, or I'm just, you know, ignorant to what the, you know, true NFT truly is, which is digital ownership. And then at that point, then you can start getting the people into what you were saying, Anthony, setting up the MetaMask, which is the most awful, like, oh my God, what if I lose these, you know, 12 or 16 words and I'm never going to have my money again process. So it's very stressful. So it's taking the stress out of it and just allowing, you know, the educational funnels to actually happen after the fact and not before the fact.
Beautifully put. D-Hype.
My hand was only up just to smack Anthony across his face, to make him wake up and realize the future really is that your bank account and everything is just centralized, and then we live in the matrix and nothing is actually real anymore, and it's all automated for you, so that your NFT projects will all be super successful. You don't even have to worry about it or be creative. They'll just be, AI will just create everything for us. In fact, I saw earlier today, my homegirl Eunice said that, you know, we're cool here. We're not like nerds like people on like Facebook and stuff. On Facebook, they're doing all these like lame AI picture stuff. And then Eunice was like, it's so cringe. And I was like, dude, why are we so cool in Web3? Like, we're literally like, we'll like cut you, man. Like, get the heck out of here unless you mean business. We're here to make like real stuff happen. Like, take big risk and danger on like a giant AAA game coming out and be freaking awesome. Like, Mex got his hand up. He's like, yes, it's exactly true. And Anthony knows it's also in theory. Also, they all know it's true. But like, honestly, like Reddit's destroyed us. Like Reddit was like, they're like, hold my beer. We're gonna show you like how to onboard people to NFTs. If you go to OpenSea and look at Reddit's collections, you'll pee your pants. You'll be like, they onboarded how many people and they sold how many NFTs to like normies? Like what? And if you go over to Reddit land, they all think that Twitter and NFTs are a joke and that they're silly, and they figured out a way to make it happen. So, Anthony is smacking me back, and also Thierry is smacking me back in the face. Well, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because of what Reddit did, I mean, they might not know it yet, but they're part of Web3. So, you know, and also something else that you said, I was actually saying it this the whole week at Art Basel in Miami, and it's my new favorite phrase. So fuck around and find out. Like they don't want problems with us over here in Web3 because we get it in and we're not going away, guys.
That's right, Mac. We will cut you. Watch out. Like when Hunter Biden came into Mario's space, I basically kicked him right in the teeth and like, don't come back. All right. We mean business around here.
So Anthony's got his hand up. Thierry's got his hand up. I wanted to make a point as well, but I'll let you guys grab the mic just because we're on a flow here.
No worries. I just want to say sorry for rugging the first time there. I was hopping in a cab. And Doug, I love you, buddy. You're one of my favorite personalities in the Web3 space, hands down. Just to touch on 2 points you made, though, the AI thing that we see kind of in the Web2 space, don't knock that too aggressively, because we're seeing a lot of those mistakes here where people are monetizing that and pushing out really shady collections that they make overnight. And to the topic of Reddit, as proud as I am of, you know, that massive onboarding opportunity and some of the kind of the landmarks that's represented, let's also understand that the activity with Reddit is really not any kind of landmark. There hasn't been any actual adoption. It was just simply a retail purchase of NFTs. We're not seeing a lot of activity following those initial purchases with any of those wallets. So I'm a little curious on how that's going to play out, but it is a good first step in my opinion. And I see Terry laughing, so I'm curious to hear.
Well, you guys, they're using them as like just their profile pics, right? Which is what is super powerful about that is they could do anything with it after that. I mean, if you go into Reddit's marketplace and you don't even go into NFT land and you just have like an avatar that's cute and you can buy like parts for the avatar. You can buy like, you know, hats, whatever. All that stuff sold out too, dude. Like they know what they're doing, and everybody on Reddit's wanting whatever they have. They know what the secret to NFTs are is to always leave and wanting. They make them want what you have and don't give it all to them. Make it like scarce. Make them want it. They can't have it, but they need to have it. Like they know the game. They're just playing it their own way. I hung out with the Reddit team in Amsterdam at DevCon, and they were so excited that someone in Web3 like me, that's super duper 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 awesome, had a Reddit history of like 8 years. I was in the K Club or whatever the hell it's called, the 8-year club and stuff. They freaked out because we're in our different silos. We're not crossing over and seeing what the other people are doing. So the fact of what they're doing and getting into NFT land is like super powerful. And who knows what they're going to do with that next? They could take those NFTs and do anything with them. They could like literally start a game or do whatever, and people will play it because they know the game of what's going on. And that's what we have to do, Tier.
Tier, you had your hand up patiently, sir.
Guys, I just wanted to laugh out loud, guys, for a little minute because it's funny that your name is D Hype and you were so hyped. So for me, it was like really fun, and yeah, I mean, guys, I'll be honest with you. I don't know too much about NFTs, but I'll tell you what my experience was with CryptoPunks in 2017, because I was actually invited to the first. Vernissage that was actually a physical vernissage in Zurich, and went there with my wife. It was pretty cool. I got the opportunity at the time in buying a CryptoPunk for $80 worth of ETH, and guess what? I didn't do it. I just wanted to hit myself afterwards because I was thinking that Ethereum was going to go to the moon in a much larger extent than the CryptoPunks. Plus, I'm colorblind, so me and art is like completely different. But I really hate to be the party pooper here, but I guess that's my job. Here's the thing, NFTs for me, I know what it is, right? But here's what I tried to do when I started to do my research in terms of the art world. Yeah. And the art world, I'll tell you what it is from my stupid eyes, okay? It's a bunch of hedge fund managers who have them wives who stay at home and pretend to be super artists, and because nobody's buying their crap, they just beat up the art pieces, and eventually they become some sort of neo artist, and then what was funny for me was like I thought penny stocks were like the pump and dump scheme by definition. Man, the art world is absolutely degenerate. It's totally insane, and you have these fake markets. You do a bunch of garbage paintings, and then next thing you know, you go and raise for charity. Even your painting is good for the bins. The people are buying it for $1 million because they're just like buying into the charity and tapping themselves on the back. And then now you say, hey, last auction my art piece went for $1 million, so I guess I'm a genius artist and everybody wants it, and next thing you know it's a massive pump. Okay, that's what it is, and that's my take on the art place for when it comes to modern art. Okay, NFTs is like the next level of degeneracy as far as I'm concerned, and I think we've seen a massive pump there, and so yeah, you see a dump. Now, here's one thing I agree on: the thing that what they did with the punks and with the apes. At first I didn't understand it. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, let me just unplug myself from the matrix. This world doesn't make any sense anymore. Goodbye, right? But then I went on to explore that they actually do like provide value to these things, so that like, hey, I got an ape and you got an ape, so you can ride my boats and I can ride your yachts, and you can stay at my place, and we're part of the same club, and this is amazing. And that, quite frankly, my friends, that's really interesting to me, because as much as it's a clown world and honk, I think this thing, actually has a future. So that's it for my rant, guys. Thanks.
D-Hype and then Anthony.
Oh, I jumped you, Anthony. I got in front of you in the
I'm
line.
I've been so bad today at
Noah,
calling people in
Noah,
order.
This is historic, Noah. You are now the best Twitter host of that's ever lived. If you didn't know, me and Anthony are in like a historical battle to the death of who can be the most provocative and antagonistic person in Web3, and also at the same time, somehow we can be best friends. If that can actually happen in Web3, anything is possible. Dogs and cats can live together. Frogs can rain down from the skies. Your plane can be on time and not lose your luggage. It's just amazing what's possible in here. And I don't even remember what I was going to say, Anthony, to you, other than you're fairly handsome and really intelligent, and I'm curious what you're going to say.
I just want to touch on the topic of NFTs. And Terry, I'm not doing this in an antagonistic way, but my personal opinion is that the mistake you're making in the assessment of NFTs is that you're looking at the past use case during this trial and error period and not looking at the future functionality. And when I think of NFTs or I think of tokenization, I mean, let's take a step back and let's look at what a fungible token is. And as we translate that to the real world, anything that is measurable or quantifiable is tokenizable. And anything that is unique is a non-fungible token in that capacity. So the options, the technology, and how these use cases can come into play is infinite as our imagination. I'm not educated on necessarily the fine art industry by any means, but personally, and being more tech driven and more of the logically driven mindset as opposed to the artistic side, I see a wealth of opportunities that are coming into this space represented by NFTs that are well beyond artwork. And I don't think that that's going to be the major market segment in the not so distant future. I think the technology is going to advance well beyond that. And artwork will actually become one of the lesser market segments, in my humble opinion.
Let's go. Ian, you have your hand up. I wanted to let Thierry just respond.
Go, Ian. Basically, all I wanted to say is, thanks, Anthony. And one of the reasons I'm here is also to learn, it's not fair to just be narrow-minded. I think, obviously art is beautiful and you can make a good thing out of it. I mean, at the end of the day, the most valuable things, will be art. Life is a piece of art, but definitely, I was just trying to say that there were tangible use cases for NFTs, and this was really something that was mind-blowing to me. As far as the apes and the squares and the pixelized things, I'm personally not super into it, but I'm totally open to change my mind, and that's kind of also why I'm here, because you guys know your shit better than me.
Yeah, Theory. I'm glad you actually, and I have to run after this, Noah. But I'm glad you said what you did, because what you said is exactly what the comments are when we first advertised on Facebook having to do with the NFT market or NFT drop, and knowing that that's what you have against you, and we come from a marketing background, right? We like to hear what people think badly about something so that we can come up with the objections ahead of time and get in front of it. And essentially what you're thinking, I have the same feelings about the monkeys and the bunnies and the bears. I mean, if you look at my OpenSea account from a couple of the projects that I bought a few NFTs, they're all garbage and bullshit, right? But there are a few properties. So for example, you're talking about, Bored Ape Yacht Club, you're talking about the punks. Those are your iconic first ones, which will always have an intrinsic value. And yeah, can you go to New York during NYC NFT and go, see Snoop Dogg with a bunch of 98% other dudes that like NFTs? Sure, you can do that. That's a great club to be in. Have fun with that. But when it's all said and done, it's digital ownership and being able to say, okay, what does that mean? And when you brought up membership, right? So there's another project I'm part of. I'm just a member. It's called Steady Stacks, right? These guys are Web2 guys that basically came into the actual Web3. They started an NFT project, but they're all traders, right? So you go into their Discord server, and it's just these guys that are nonstop doing training on how to trade and options, and they're like, hey, if you want, we're just posting our calls, right? This is what we're trading. This is options, right? This is what's happening in the market. And having that one NFT and going into that Discord allows me to go in, because I don't have time to do all of that. But the guys may be, $20,000, $30,000 already, just by going into my TD Ameritrade and saying, okay, let's see what happens. Just going into a couple of his trades. So there are NFTs having to do with membership, right? There's NFTs having to do with gaming and what we're talking about, digital ownership, being able to level up your cards, and then being able to say there's a supply and demand mechanism in which allows gamers to say, wow, instead of throwing away all my money at World of Warcraft, and I actually have a game that I like, so therefore I can see if there's any monetization value there, right? To be able to sell it on an open marketplace like GameStop. So there's so much that goes along with NFTs. But what you just said, again, thank you for saying that out loud, because that is essentially those who have seen what the initial, I would say the tulip part of NFTs were, as far as like, oh, are we going to have the next monkey that's worth $250,000 because Justin Bieber bought one? Yeah, that's gone. Forget about that. It's all about utility. And, just real quickly, we're doing a comic drop here next week. We even have it where the utility of the comic, it's an NFT, but you could still get a physical copy. And just by holding it, you're getting war chests within our game every single month, right? So it's the digital that's connecting to the brand as well as the physical to be able to create something that's actually worth something, as opposed to just a piece of digital art. So there's so much that goes into it. And I just wanted to mention all that. And guys, hey, listen, real quickly.
Ian, before you go, I don't know if I have. Can I get 2 more minutes of your time, because I had a point that I wanted to bring up, and it pertains. So, and it pertains to a lot of you guys, and it might be a hot take, but one of the questions I have is, when building a Web3 game, why are we doing utility token raises? Why are we raising money for something that people who might not participate in the game, or people that might be holding too much of that token, would subsequently dump on other people? Again, I'm going to bring up the analogy of just think of a Web2 MMORPG, World of Warcraft. They didn't do a gold token raise. They didn't give out gold before the game actually started. You had to make a character, enter the game, and start actually spending time playing the game in order to earn that token. So something that's been a little bit confusing to me is I'm seeing all these play to earn games or Web3 games pop up, and they're doing token utility raises. So someone convinced me that there's a silver lining, or there's something good about going this route.
Yeah, I think that's going to start going away. Right. So they did all the raises, and granted, we have a utility token as well, but I mean, we're actually creating a lot of utility with the token in the game, in which we haven't withheld all of this extra supply that's going to be dumped onto the market, right? So there's a difference. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that you're going to have all of these token raises, or people aren't going to ape into these until the next bull run. Maybe it's people haven't learned their lessons. Listen, VCs, and we're in the middle of a raise. There's even VCs to this day, they're like, well, just get rid of your token. We'll just launch another one. And it's just like, are you kidding? That was so 2022 or 21, right? And it's just like, guys, there's an evolution that's happening so quickly. And I agree with you. I don't think that the raises are going to be there for tokens. I think the raises are going to be there potentially for the NFTs. But I mean, remember, unless you're getting VC money, how are you going to actually spend the actual money and the time that's needed to create a game that's worth a shit for people to play? Like, the money's got to come from somewhere, right? So, if you have a utility token that you can launch, and you've got a community that maybe you can make some money off of launch, and that funds your game, and the people who actually are investing into the token in the beginning are leveraged as if it's a stock or a purchase, of a stock of a startup. I mean, that is one way to look at it. But I think that, I think, Beck, you guys even did an NFT drop. You don't even have a token, right? So that being said, raise enough money to get the game started, right? Let's start getting the development going. And like I said, we got 24 to 36 months. We got 24 to 36 months before the big boys come in and make it virtually impossible for anybody to compete. So I think that, you might see a couple more token drops. You might see some more NFT drops, but, you just have to know the founders. Gone are the days of undoxed people. I think it's ridiculous that this industry is like, oh, we're not going to tell you who we are, but go ahead and invest into something that I tell you is going to happen. No, there needs to be a lot more accountability. Everything that happened with FTX, do I think that there should be massive amount of regulation? No, some regulation, okay. But really, it's the crypto community that needs to basically self-regulate and say, okay, we're not going to have this happen again. And I think you've seen some of that with, some of the exchanges. I think what Coinbase said, 1/3 of their supply is SHIB. Okay, well, do you want to keep your stuff on Coinbase? Good luck with that, or crypto, or whatever it was. So, there's all these things that go along with it. But to your point, I do think that these are going to be far and few in between, and they're just going to be shit coins if you're going to see a lot of these token raises.
Yeah, I think it was Qcoin actually, Ian, and I know you have to go, so thank you for staying on and sharing that, guys. WAGMI Games is doing an allow list spot giveaway to the community. I pinned that message to the space, and also, Ian, thank you to you and your team for that Genesis NFT. My Genesis NFT for WAGMI Games has decoupled from the bear market, and I'm very happy with that. So,
yeah, thanks. Not a problem. I think we're 10x on our collection, so. I think it was 0.125. I think we're trading at 1.25 ETH. So real proud of the community that we've built. So appreciate you actually having us on, and happy to be on again. And the rest of the speakers that are here, make sure we're connected, and love to have some chats offline. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, man. Daddy, you're next. Daddy, I can't get your name right, man. I'm sorry. Daddy.
He only responds if you pronounce it exactly correctly.
So D-Wave, take the mic and then you can do it on my behalf.
Thierry, good evening.
So sorry, guys. But by all means, I like to speak last, but okay. I was just writing a message and it didn't let me leave. I kind of lost my train of thought, but first thing is I wanted to say is, by all means, guys, if you want to do me some airdrops and stuff like that, I'm all taken, because I regret my CryptoPunk story. Anyways, so that was that. The other thing is just mentioning on what was said about you need the VCs or you need the money. Look, I mean, yeah, that's for sure. That's one way of seeing it. And you will always need some money. You'll always need financial capital. But I'll tell you what, the biggest cost of any financial capital project that you're going on is human cost. So if you get capital to get humans, you can also do shortcut by just getting directly the artists and the humans and the guys get together and create something out of nothing. That's where the value is created from my vantage point. And so I wanted to just mention that I know there's a lot of people who struggle, and then it seems like the struggle is real and it's going to get even worse. But the hope and the light, at the end of the tunnel is that, you don't have to think in a way that, hey, I need to get money so I can get stuff done. It's not true. You can get stuff done already beforehand. Obviously, money helps. But if you get a good crew and then you just say, hey, you get some important guy that you really like, that you admire, and then you pull him together, you align his interests with yours. You say, hey, look, I'll do this. I'll put the human capital. I'll put the energy. I'll put the time. I'll put the team. You put your name, and then if you put your name and I put the team and the time, we'll be able to get some funds going. So that's how I would put things. And then ultimately, to me, what was really appealing again was this sense of community, because having a massive community or having a community that maybe is not very numbered, but it's like good friends, maybe there's not a lot of them, but they can provide shitloads of value. Then that's also something very interesting. So you can go for quality, you can go for quantity, you can go for both eventually. That's kind of what I would say, without really necessarily knowing a specific project. But I think this is true not only for these field guys. This is literally true for all industries. So yeah, go on and do your stuff, man.
Anthony.
I think Ian hit a lot of the nails on the head. I do disagree that token raises are going to disappear. I also think that Thierry brought up a really good point. He had mentioned human capital. If we really look to our roots, and we can really find some clarity on what's going on in this situation, human capital or sweat equity is what I like to call it. That's the foundation of a startup. You have to create value to find your funding. And I don't think that's any different with token raises. I think the confusion in this space has been Obviously supported by the hype and the quick ROI that people have found with tokens. But initially, token raises are a decentralized means of raising funds. It's no different than Kickstarter or GoFundMe or something along those lines, in terms of finding mass audience of smaller investors who can bring their capital together and fund a cause. When we saw VCs come into this space and start introducing VC funding in a more centralized manner coming from funds and firms, that's not supposed to work in cohesion with a token raise, in my opinion. If they want to come in privately and kind of pick up tokens through that supply, that's an option. But these are kind of one or the other. You're looking for major centralized investment, or you're looking at small decentralized investment through larger entity or groups of people, I should say. Not larger entities, but larger groups of people as an entity. So I think token raises will always have a value. It's just two different means of fundraising. And one thing that's really important is understanding when we're dealing with gaming, how a token acts. You know what I mean? Like the game economy and the functionality of that circulating token within the game economy needs to be differentiated, and it really needs to be very clear and concise in terms of the token raise and how that works with owning a portion of the company. I think Ian made a really good point in equating that to stocks within a company. So that confusion and where those lines got blurred and manipulated in a lot of cases, and I don't necessarily think always malevolent, maybe too opportunistic in a lot of times, but the lack of clarity on that has been the issue. And I think people are going to be forced to find clarity during this bear season, because those that are trying to capitalize or be malicious in their approach, they're just going to get weeded out. So I think we're going to see a new iteration of these types of token raises, but I don't believe they're going anywhere. I think they're just going to operate in a more efficient manner.
The hype.
Damn, Anthony, you know what you just did? I was gonna say something similar to that, but you did it in like a way that was like dead sexy. It was like, dude, you like just threw the hammer down, like Thor's hammer, and just smashed the table. I was gonna just say the same thing. Okay, first of all though, I know we have like the plus button in the bottom right corner, but definitely retweet this room. There's so many people here, even though the fact that they gimped us with this like little plus button down there, because Twitter is crazy. But also, if you go to the top of the room, you can invite people via DM. So you can go and click on like one of the communities you're in or Twitter chat groups or whatever, send them a link. This is a really cool space, Noah. You're allowing me and Anthony to battle to the death here, which is super cool of you. And also, my pronunciation of Thierry was exactly correct. So everyone write that down, how to pronounce that. Also, Anne is the right way to pronounce that guy's name. Just so you know, I'm a expert at pronouncing names. I have
You got yourself a follow, bro.
Thank you so much. Everyone in the room.
Where's my follow, bro?
You can't have one, Anthony. I have it. No follows for Anthony. Everyone, please follow everyone in the room except Anthony right now, please. Make sure you look for people in the room too that you think are fun and exciting, and go and DM them and make some friends. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many retweets there are in the room or whatever is going on, but there should be like 200. There's like 200 people in the room. I've noticed recently people have like kind of like been very laid back about retweeting rooms, maybe because we got a little bit like over like of that positive toxicity of like retweet the room every 5 seconds, right? But at the same time, it's fun. Invite your friends. It's a good time. I do have a couple notes here I do want to comment on. We had a mention of like, being a Bored Ape holder, blah, 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 and the parties they have, and you can be bros with 98% bros and Snoop Dogg. Now, my personal experience, I was at the ape party in Miami just a few days ago, and I will tell you the ratio of baddies in the space of women there was like much higher than that. Also, it was a very nice experience. Also, Spotty Wi-Fi was there, who's my homeboy apparently. I was on his list and stuff, was there, and his wife is amazing. She's actually Spotty Wifey, and she's a big proponent of this thing called DeSci, which is decentralized science. Anyone that wants to talk about decentralized science can DM me on the side. My good friends are like the leaders of the decentralized science movement. I try to get them spots at conferences and people to listen to it because it's super amazing and wholesome. It's going to help Web3. And I'm going to tell them that I mentioned them in this space to get lots of clout, and it's going to be really cool. And so DeSci is sexy. Just remember that. Write that down. You've heard it here first. But the thing is that like those ape parties, I made lots of connections because I'm fun and exciting as a person, because I want to be there connecting with people and give them something to laugh about or something that's fun. And their bullshit detectors are on high alert. They do not deal with people that are bullshit. Like, you better come in there and be fun, wanting to connect, have something cool that you're doing, whatever. And you can't just stand up and shill someone. They'll just be like, get out of here, bro, whatever. They actually want to find cool things to be part of and invest in. And half the people I talk to there I'm like, yeah, what do you do? And they're like, well, I'm an investor, right? Because I don't know. Maybe they made a bunch of money off of apes. Maybe they just had money. They bought an ape. I don't know. All these people live in like Monaco and stuff, whatever. They're like 23. They're investors, whatever. They're living a good life. They're having a good time. A lot of them actually I talk to are investors, and some of them actually technically told me that their main thing is investing in video games. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, right? That party was great and fantastic. I'm not a holder. I was there on someone's list or whatever. It was really fun. And I also got in there because I connect a lot with the VFriends community, and I'm friends with a bunch of people that overlap over there. So who you know, your network is super, super important in bringing value to the table. Like when I'm in this chat with you guys right now and making these jokes about Anthony and us slapping each other, it's because I see that Anthony has this vibe in him where he wants to be provocative and fun, and he wants to call people out in a fun way to talk about stuff. He wants to instigate conversation and learn and like be provocative. Like that's what we need in this space. And otherwise it's boring and we're not getting anywhere, right? So another thing about Anthony, you just talked about how like, you know, your round of raising and everything and having tokens ahead of time. There's lots of different ways to think about that. Like we work with like brands like Altera that are doing it in different ways with like thinking about doing events and all kinds of stuff. The key is just like the ape party stuff. If you can come to the table with something cool and awesome, like I don't give a damn what your structure is. If it's structured in a way that benefits people and is fun and exciting, then do it. I think the problem is that we're replicating the same thing over and over again because it seems to be the easy way to do it or whatever. Be innovative, think differently. Altera is doing different things with like throwing events, having live action trailers. It got me intrigued. It wanted me to be a part of what they're doing. It's really cool. There's a wolf in the trailer, a real actual wolf. Okay. I want to be in a trailer, a live action video with a real damn wolf, like I'm in freaking, you know, Game of Thrones. Like I want that. Okay. It's cool. Also, to the point that I think was brought up by Eon, is that doxing is important. Leadership and who you are and your personality matters. Like, I want to be around Anthony so I can give him a hard time as much as possible, okay? I want to be around Mech and Mike and these guys to showcase them and what they're doing. I want to eat croissants. They're delicious, okay? I want to be around people that have their name being croissant. I want people to be doxed. You don't have to be. If you're a non and you're just an investor and you're just someone helping out and you just want to be around, that's fine. But if you want to be a leader and have people listen to you, dox yourself. Be somebody. Like show up and be there for people. Come on. What is your deal? You sit around in your basement all day having opinions. Who cares? You know what matters? Putting your neck on the line, taking risk, doing business, because you know you're gonna fail a million times over and over before you're successful, right? Like you might have a project and it might not go super well, and then you can try again, or maybe it will go well. I don't know. Or maybe you're flexible and you can pivot and have things work. You know, maybe you're throwing a AAA game out there that's huge, and when you talk to someone like Doug Hype, and they're asking you all these kind of questions because maybe you want to work with them, they're like, hey, we have all these different ways to be flexible and raise money or have people invested in what we do. And I'm like, that's cool. That makes me feel good about it. You know, be something, be new. That's how projects are successful. And your personality and who you are is going to permeate through that project. I'm telling you right now, if you have a project and it's fancy and you have Thierry involved, it's probably a good idea, right? If you know how to pronounce his name correctly and you're at a fancy and you're at a fancy function, it's going to go off really well. The only reason people ever hire me or work with me is because they think I'm good at what I do. They think I can bring myself to wherever the situation is at. I can be fancy if I need to be. I can be DJ. I can do whatever it takes because I just want to connect with people. I want to understand them. It has to be fun. So, you know, you need to be able to do that as a person. Know as a host to be able to connect with people and be real, because otherwise, why are we here? If we're not here, if we're playing a video game and we're not having a good time, like, for example, last night we did a video game thing. Anthony Croissant was there, and we're hosting it. We're having a good time. And at one point, I was like, look, the Twitter space is a mess. I'm going to kick the door down, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff here. And because the people in the Discord are having too much fun, I'm like, they're in giggling with each other. They're talking about, I'm stabbing you in the back and stuff. And I'm like, how dare they have this much fun? It's because we brought together a bunch of people that are really fun and charismatic, right? That's what we want in video game land, and for this to happen, to build relationships with each other and tell stories with each other. So I think all that stuff's super, super important. Not only that, hit that upward arrow button at the top of the space, invite people in here. There's a lot of people in here. There's 215 people in this room. We're not even like doing giveaways and stuff. What is happening, Noah? This is insanity. I'm going to report you to the FBI right now.
Mic drop. Mic drop, D-Hype. We will be doing giveaways again in the future. We're not doing one today, but I think everyone appreciates that stream of consciousness that you just shared with us. I think it was very valuable. A lot of nuggets of wisdom to take from that. Labyrinth, welcome to the panel. You've been patiently waiting with your hand up. Mike's yours.
Yeah, my arm got tired, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for bringing me up, man. This is a great discussion, and a lot of good points have been made. So I can't even remember all of them, but I'll go from the last one and what Theory mentioned about punks and apes. And well, I confess I actually missed the boat myself, so I didn't buy any. But to understand what they did, because we only look at something after it has become successful, or like it failed or whatever. But the thing is that to understand what they did, I mean, you can compare basically economics of the real world and digital economics. And so basically in the economics of the real world, you have natural scarcity. In economists have been like very slow actually to jump in on the digital goods, because the idea is that these are not scarce. And so we talk about scarcity with blockchain and all that sort of stuff, but this is artificial scarcity. And so what the value of digital goods used to be before was basically status and identity. And the punks collection leveraged that very well. There was some scarcity in the punks collection, because there were like only 10,000, but this is artificial scarcity. And what apes then later did was that they brought another type of natural scarcity. The thing that actually Thierry noticed is that by being a club, and by you borrowing the things that other people have or whatever, and by attending events together and all that sort of stuff, then you brought in another type of natural scarcity, which actually made it even more more valuable, right? Because if you go to a club, for example, there's only so many people that can get in and all that, right? So this is the thing that most people noticed. However, the value was there even to begin with. But, I mean, you can discuss whether it was that valuable and, to be purchased for millions of dollars or not, but it was there. And so that's what most people missed. There are also other types of scarcity in the digital world that not many people talk about. Content is scarce in the sense that in a game, for example, once you consume a particular content, you're less likely to actually go back and consume it again. You have consumed it. I mean, that's why we talk about content consumption. The other thing is computing resources. So like you are limited by the technology at the time. I mean, you can argue that the technology right now allows a lot more than it used before, but we always try to push further. And so like right now, how many people can you have playing in the same space, for example, together? 100, 200. It depends on the graphics that you have and all that. This is a scarce thing that puts a limitation on what you can actually construct. And so you have to leverage that well when you create a game. And the next thing is also user attention. And so that is also limited. And to go back to something that Anthony was talking about with, I forgot the name of the other guy that was up there speaking. So the economics of the game, basically, that the play to earn model, and how like how also other Web2 companies have been doing that, before us. This is not something that we invented. Whether they called it play to earn or not, that's a different thing. But I mean, it used to be. You could see like all sorts of from World of Warcraft, which by the way, it's very much against blockchain. They wrote an article lately, raving against it. But I mean, their items are actually on eBay and they're selling for thousands of dollars. So in that sense, they're already blockchain. Whether they admit it or not, it's a different thing. And they sometimes they even go against players and ban them or whatever. But this doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. There is a good reason for them actually not to do it, not to go full blockchain or NFT. And it seems to me that they would risk a lot for a couple of reasons. First of all, players themselves are very, very traditional. You change the smallest thing in the game, everybody will turn against you. They do not want changes for things that they're used to, especially. Second is that secondary markets actually do mess up with the game sometimes. And you have to, like what Anthony was saying is, I think we're talking about two different kind of things. MMO games, they have economics incorporated in them already. Like trading in the game is part of the fun, and that's not something that you can remove from MMO games, and MMO games would remain the same. So, part of the engagement of the interactive activity between players and all that, the connections that they create, the trading, the fighting, all of that, it's part of the economy of the game. But on the other hand, you have also projects like Project Entropia, for example, or Entropia Universe nowadays, which is just it's not exactly a game; it's more of a social platform. And as the founders used to say themselves, this was inspired by the teachings of Ayn Rand. And so, it was mostly an ode to capitalism, right? So go in there and make your money and create all sorts of businesses and stuff, which, I have nothing against that, but it's not exactly a game, is what I'm, a game in the sense that we use for games, because finances itself is a game. So, what Anthony was talking about, it seems to me, was that about these social platforms more than particular games with more limited content, in the sense that they would create some sort of scarcity, because scarcity itself is actually fun, right? And this is something that one of the economists that studies game economics, and one of the first, Edward Castronova. I don't know if anybody has heard about him or read any of his books. Basically, Edward Castronova, writes books basically about how to create fun economics, right? Economists do not talk about fun economics. They only talk about scarcity and stuff, and whatever it is scarce in the real life, right? But how can you create fun economics? So
I want to just make a couple points on that, Labyrinth. You might have joined a bit late. As much as Activision or Blizzard might hate blockchain or not like blockchain, based on the article, or I don't know where you were referencing that from, they love money more than they hate blockchain. Activision loves money more than any company that I have ever seen in my life, honestly, and they've made negative changes to their game as a result of, for the sake of making money. So first things first, the NFT marketplace doesn't have to be online. The NFT marketplace can just be the in-game auction house, right? The idea is that, as you mentioned, these items are being traded on eBay. They're being sold from person to person. There is, I'm going to make the same point again, just in case no one heard it, but these transactions are already happening on the black market. So if Blizzard or Activision can find a way to capture that value, charge a fee on that value, rather than just letting those items sit there and collecting dust, they will do it. And I don't know if that means a full transition from Web 2 to Web 3. Probably not, honestly. But it is something that I think, if conveyed properly, and if the time comes, they will
Yeah,
certainly
no,
explore.
no argument about that. I know that they will. The point that I was trying to make is that there are challenges to blockchain technology in Web3 gaming that have not yet been solved. Or if I'm not saying that it's impossible to solve them, but they have not yet been solved. And so the games that we have already seen, like X Infinity or whatever, the last bull market's successes, right? They did not actually create a sustainable system. And so the problem is that when once you have secondary markets, and they do develop on their own, and there's no way that you can actually stop them. And that's why I'm saying, whether you want to or not, you are already blockchain. And I don't say blockchain in the like you have not incorporated the same currencies, but the model is already there, whether you want it or not. And so players are actually doing it. Black markets do develop, and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you can curb them somehow, but you cannot actually stomp them out completely. And so what I'm saying is that this kind of secondary markets, if they sometimes become so big as to challenge the game itself. So you have, for example, farmers coming into the game who do not actually care about the game at all, and they extract all the value. So you have, for example, people from, like Anthony was mentioning, like from third world countries, who are very interested in playing these games. The problem is that apart from their content, that they put into the game, because if you're a player, you're already producing content. You're actually interacting with other players. In some cases, you may even make the game fun. So this is actually our prerogative here. How to make content extractors into content creators, at least, right? And if not exactly value injectors, at least content creators, because the content that you create in the game basically makes the game more interesting. Because even if you consider, like in games, not everybody's paying money, even in the traditional games, right? Not everybody's paying money. A lot of people are there playing for free. But the whales who are actually paying money would not play the game if you didn't have all the other people who are actually playing there. I mean, it's a network effect.
Cryptopher Columbus, welcome to the panel. Mike's yours.
What up, Noah? Hello, everybody. Great discussion. Mi amor, dame un segundito, por favor. Sorry, just that the wife was looking at me. I'm trying to eat and just digest all this information as I digest my food. And I'm really interested in the creating of the economy within the game framework. I'm not a game developer in any sense. I've worked with amazing developers. Actually, Buddy on stage is a developer, Grasso. He's really, really amazing. Not to show, but he's a good dude. Really smart guy. But I'm looking into how we can create new revenue opportunities for the in-game currencies and monetize the actual game in a way that's not really been thought about thoroughly, I think, by some of the people in the industry. And I know Circle did a really amazing article. I highly recommend people look at how they're suggesting the use of stable coins within the game framework, which can do a whole host of things with respect to the in-game payment infrastructure. Creating a token or creating a in-game kind of coin, whatever that kind of represents how you interact on the game front, is obviously something that's very expensive to create. It's programming that is complex, takes time. But using blockchain-powered stablecoins within the in-game payment infrastructure can be built within a fraction of the time, needed at much lower cost, and provides really exciting revenue opportunities for gamers. I'm curious to know what the panel thinks with respect to that. Using stablecoins as a way to enhance revenue opportunities for game developers and increase the profitability of the sector with the use of those stablecoins.
So I feel like Anthony and Croissant both have words to say on that. But Thierry, if you wanted to share some thoughts before we move on.
Yeah, no, I mean, actually, just to mention, I thought that when people were talking about croissant, they were just making fun of my name because they couldn't pronounce it. So, so it was funny. And
I too
yeah.
like my croissant.
Yeah. So no, I'm curious to know more about what Croissant wants to say.
Yeah, likewise, Croissant, the mic's yours.
Awesome, thanks. I was just, hey guys, I love all you guys saying my name in French as well. That's always fun. Yeah, I was just going to comment on the stablecoin concept and just say that that's actually really similar to what we already see in games with the in-game currency. I mean, essentially, those are stablecoins in the Web2 world. It's just we have a different terminology for them in Web3.
100%. I would love to see us utilizing like USDC or some of these stable coins that have proven themselves able to withstand intense market fluctuations. And I apologize if I sound absolutely like a freaking chipmunk with a nut in its mouth, because I literally have yuca or cassava, as people who don't speak Spanish, in my mouth at this time. So apologies for that. So yeah, I think it would be interesting because it would allow people to not have the volatility that occurred, like for instance with Axie, right? You have their in-game token and it goes up and down, but then if some event occurs or market conditions affect or just emotion dictate the price fluctuation downward, now all of a sudden your in-game value in terms of that economy has been reduced because that token has depreciated. Obviously, you forego any upside potential on the token, but at least you have stability, and I think that's important in this day and age. So I would love to see that more, and I would love game developers to think about coordinating with these blockchains and those stable coins so that they can be programmed into their games and say, hey, by the way, the in-game currency is, or one of them is a stable coin, USDT, USDC, or whatever stable coin you're obviously not Luna.
I think that successful Web3 games will be some of the first ecosystems we see decouple entirely from the crypto market. If the utility token has enough in-game uses and burn mechanisms, it's irrelevant. If Bitcoin crashes by 70%, if people are flooding into the game and playing the game and want to spend gold, I'm using gold as an example, the utility token to buy items,
use gold.
it's gonna keep going up. That's so. Anthony, I think Anthony and then Croissant with their mics, and then I'll get to you, Graslow.
Yeah, I think the stablecoin conversation is a very good conversation to have. I mean, game economy design is not a simple task. Economic design is not a simple task. Somebody alluded to earlier Blizzard and Activision with World of Warcraft and the inflation that's occurred within that game economy. And this is one of the largest AAA studios or conglomerates in the world today. And if we look at the real world economy today, look what's happening. We have problems. There is no perfect model yet. And sometimes I think a striving for perfection in this space is such a great value because it allows us to advance so quickly. But at the same time, we lose sight of the fact that there is no perfect model yet. I think stablecoins present a huge value. To be transparent, and I actually have and I have a client in which we're replicating a similar model. We're not actually implementing stablecoins, but there's a dual layer in that there's an in-game economic token that is non-liquid. It exists within the game. However, it can be transferred out for cryptocurrency, but that is not necessarily the limitation, and that's just an on-ramping method. And I do foresee that as kind of the future of the space as we advance, particularly with the big studios coming in. Cryptocurrency is simply going to be utilized as a purchasing power, and no differently than having fiat on-ramping. And if you choose one or the other, you're really shooting yourself in the foot right now. You have to have both, let's be honest, as both present great value and both present opportunity. And you want to have as many opportunities for your consumers to purchase as possible. But the game economy, as was mentioned by Christopher Columbus, crypto for Columbus, cannot be so volatile. If we really want to target gamers and we want gamers to have a positive user experience, they can't be sitting watching charts all day long. Speculative investors invest. The gamification of investing is a whole different process than playing a game. Gamers want to play the game. They want stability. They want comfort. And, if they want to check a chart on a Friday night and see if they're up 10%, that's great for them. They're happy with that. That's an outstanding opportunity. It's a whole lot better than putting your money in a bond and collecting 3% at the end of the year, or whatever it is. But comparatively, the speculative investors are the ones that want to see that growth and that volatility. And those are the ones that are extracting the value. So there has to be a really healthy balance. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion is in this space right now, is that Web3 technology started primarily with the blockchain ledger and focusing on decentralization of finance. And that was kind of the ball rolling in the shift. But these technologies that are expanding with the blockchain and smart contracts are opening up so many new doors. But we still haven't found clarity on what we're doing and what we want. So with this market emerging with so many people that are here for financial investment and DeFi volatility and opportunity and trying to get rich overnight, that's a whole different market segment, a whole different demographic than if you're appealing to gamers and trying to onboard gamers into your project. And of course, that applies to all the varying domains within this Web3 space as these technologies begin to emerge. So we really have to define our consumer profile and who we're targeting. We really have to understand any of the investors that we bring into a business. And we have to have a legitimate business model, revenue streams planned. And if we want to have earning mechanics, then we have to have third-party revenue streams that have to fund that. And it can't be, what's my ROI after 30 days? It has to be a rational number. No different than profit sharing with dividends in a stock or in a publicly traded company. These things all have to function in a way that is sustainable. Let's be honest, because some of the models we had last year just didn't work, but they were great opportunities for us to step into this space. And I know a lot of people had some negative things to say about Axie today, but let's be honest. If it weren't for Axie and the good things that they did and the mistakes that they made, would we even be on this Twitter space right now having this conversation? We probably wouldn't. So we do have to commend the trendsetters, the industry leaders who are bringing this innovation. And yeah, they're going to make mistakes. And guess what? Everybody here is probably going to make a mistake too. And we're going to continue to make mistakes. But that's the trial and error process as we strive for perfection to find these models that will work and how we can bring this mass adoption and really allow this emerging market to become the market.
Croissant.
Yeah, first I just wanted to say I'm sorry if I sound weird as well. I'm enjoying the space while I'm, getting in a workout right now. So I apologize for that, but I did want to comment on the stablecoin aspect, or at least stabilizing the game economy, is I think a really, really important topic. And I just wanted to, I gave a very simplified answer, last time, but I wanted to kind of point out that there are so many ways to make this happen. As Anthony was saying, that one of our games, we have a dual economy. You can also just get creative with the technology and see what's out there. There's some people building some really cool stuff, and there's a lot of interesting ways to go around utilizing this technology to get a stabilized game economy where you can still have multiple blockchains. And, as we look to cryptocurrencies of the future and people wanting to use them as a currency that, you want to go in and out of the game with crypto, you don't want to go in and out with fiat. You can have it pegged to a specific amount stabilized within your game that then swaps out to a currency like an Oracle kind of thing. Or you can have your own token and have that token pegged to a stable. There's just so many different ways to go about it. And I would just encourage developers to really look into this, because I do think it is very important when you're considering, long-term sustainability and getting, security there. There's, the method of the past of, buying, for example, land within a game, like that's part of the game. You have to buy the land and the price varies, depending on the market kind of thing. That's a variable economy. And I don't know, you need to kind of determine if that's something that's right for your game, or if having a stabilized economy is what is going to work best for your game's mechanics.
Grasslow, welcome to the panel. Mike's yours.
Thanks for having me, and great panel. I love the discussion so far. I missed the very beginning, so I'll definitely go back and listen to the recording. I did want to make a point and say, hey, Cryptopher, appreciate the shout out there. Great to hear you on Space. But yeah, about the stablecoins question, I definitely think that it depends on the genre. It depends on the economic model of the game that you're talking about, because some games where the primary economy is tournaments and wagering, it just doesn't make sense to introduce your own native token because you're going to have all the downside of speculation and the risk and the liquidity pool and all those problems. So yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense to any game developer should ask themselves, does a token add value to my game, or should we just use stable coins? And so I think that's an important question. But at the same time, there are ways that a token can add value. And I think, in certain genres like MMOs, I think that that a token for the game makes a lot of sense. A lot of the comparisons to like Axie, I don't think they're going to hold up long term. Axie was a special case. Like, for one, they had inflationary tokenomics, so they definitely had problems. They had a problem with player expectations. A lot of their players that came had the sole expectation that they were going to earn money, and that's not sustainable. If you're not bringing in a lot of players that are there to buy items for entertainment, then you can't sustain paying out tokens to players that only want to realize profit at some point. But then the other point is Axie was really early, and a lot of speculators and investors in crypto saw the potential of Web3 gaming and bought Axie tokens as a bet on the future of gaming, which was a mistake because that assumed that Axie was going to be the one winner. And so that all kind of drove up the price. It really contributed to crashing the economy. But I think that once the space matures and you've got thousands of games, and sure, not all of them will have tokens, but many of them will, and some of them will have totally different models. Some will have revenue sharing, some will have governance. Some will just be a token that's only used for utility in the game. I think that you won't see the problem of mass speculation. You're always going to have speculators. You're always going to have investors, and several made the point earlier. I think Labyrinth, you made the point about money is fun. Like economics is fun, and so like as a MMO player, like I enjoy playing the economy and buying items and finding like arbitrage opportunities. So people are going to do that, and they're going to do that with things that have real value. But I don't think we have to worry as much about the massive price appreciation and massive crashes. At least that's what my hope is for the future. But again, thanks for the panel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the thoughts, Thierry.
Hey, thanks again. Yeah, I really like this conversation. And by the way, Noah, I'm gonna be putting on the video of my rant about stablecoins after the show that I did last time. It was pretty fun, and I can go on and on about ranting about stablecoins and how everything is a shitcoin, and including US dollars, the biggest shitcoins, and it's all a Ponzi as well. But yeah, so follow me. I'll put the rant after, guys, if you're interested about the economy and what's coming, which is basically a shit show of deleveraging and everything will go to shit. But it's kind of like a phoenix is going to rise up and go back again. So I want to take also another point on what was said. Turns out that I was a massive gamer in my early days. And I'm not anymore. Now, what I've done is I've basically tried to gamify my life, and that really resonated with what Grassler was saying. I have, these icons of achievement unlocked, and I put about 9 achievements that I wanted to do in my life, but like those are big things. And I basically go on in life trying to achieve those achievements, and it all comes from a dream that I had where my brother and my cousin were just like playing, and at some point it just pops in. It's like, congratulations, you just spent 3,000 hours in this game. And I was like, what the hell? And to me, as kind of like half autistic children, I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God, like, what it really means is these people have wasted their lives, and somebody on the receiving end just got the energy and time of multitudes of people who, by playing the game and by purchasing it, are transferring all of this mojo to these developers in the form of money, right? I think the what you guys are doing is kind of shifting that paradigm. It's kind of like saying, hey, pay for play, but like in the good sense of the word, in the sense that you can actually monetize. And I think you see that is somehow from those who are pro gamers relative to those who are like waste my life gamers, which is pretty much entertainment gamers. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just that I'm autistic. But when you look at it, it cannot only be like Grassler say, play for money gamers, because otherwise, well, first of all, there's no fun in that anymore. The moment you make it your job, it usually like reduces your marginal propension of enjoyment. And then the second is like it's kind of have to be a Ponzi scheme. Some people have to give for some people to take. So it's very rare when you don't have a zero-sum game. But the beautiful thing is that the economy is not a zero-sum game. There is ways you can create value. There's ways you can multiply value. And I think the beauty of this is there is ways you can gamify things precisely in order to create more and more value. And if you tokenize that, I mean, do you want to stabilize it by a stable coin? You know, by all means, wait until next year and then take my stable coin that'll be out there, and then you'll have gold instead of shit coins, bitcoins, and whatever other fiat. Um, but you don't have to, you know.
Tell
It's
us how
not
you
all
really
about.
feel.
Yeah, no, it's not all about it's not all about money at the end of the day, you know. I used to play a game called Baldur's Gate, you know, and you know, imagine you really try to monetize everything. Pff, you will have to put money inside to be able to get anywhere, and it would kind of suck, you know. Game coins are also important if they're just like worthless pieces of Mario coins, because you need to be able to make the experience also free for those who are like for the plebes, basically, for the broke people, you know. So it's important to democratize enjoyment, guys. I mean, I don't know if you want to monetize everything. The pleasures of life today already are monetized enough. You know, I was in Dubai recently. I was talking to a friend. I was like, "Hey, should we go for dinner?" I was like, "Yeah, but for how much?" I was like, "Oh man, like I wasn't interested in that at all." But like, kind of sucks when you start monetizing everything. So, come on, man. You know, like just enjoy a little bit. You know, I don't know. Maybe Hunter Biden can tell us more about how to enjoy stuff. But really, really, probably not the best example though.
I think it's in his I think it's in his laptop.
Yeah. Well, you know, we should gamify like finding what the fuck he was doing, anyways. But that becomes political. I'll probably be censored, then, so I'd rather stop here.
So yeah, Anthony, you have your hand up.
I do, yeah. um, uh, yes, we should gamify that. Of course, we should gamify everything. I had a few points, I suppose. I think theory. Just one quick thing in the mention of these people wasting their lives away. I don't necessarily agree with that point. I do think that recreation is very valuable in life. I wish I had more recreation in my life, to be honest, because 16-hour days of work, 7 days a week gets tough. I would like to waste some of my life not, maximizing capacity. But beyond that, one thing to touch on, kind of getting back to the stablecoin, as well as the topic of kind of how to utilize tokens. And Grazel, you brought up some outstanding points. I love when Grazel speaks. He's a very educated gentleman, very kind too. But one thing to remember when we look at tokens in the Web3 ecosystem is that they represent more than just capital and liquidity as well. Now that we have smart contracts on many of these protocols, they present code, open source code, and opportunity, composability. And there's a lot that can be done. And I think that's really, really important in this space when we assess whether or not tokens have a value in gaming, because they do have a ton of value. But what is the value we're looking for is something we have to define. Are we looking for liquidity to monetize, or are we looking for the smart contract and the code can come with that? Because we can have non-liquid tokens and they can do a whole lot of outstanding things. And that's really the only challenge or barrier I see for the stablecoin debate. But that's not to say that stablecoins couldn't function. I think they could work greatly in cohesion with other utility tokens that don't have liquidity involved in them as well. And of course, we can find ways to utilize liquidity with some of those utilities. I mean, the opportunities are vast, but we need clear definitions. And I think that's, again, you've probably heard me say this, and I probably reiterated over and over again, one of the biggest problems in the space right now is we're all scrambling to find clarity so we can properly define things in a way that's concise.
Cryptopher.
Yeah, and I think Anthony, great points. And I think actually Croissant, she alluded to that as well. That it doesn't have to be stables or bust, right? And it doesn't have to be in-game currency or bust. It could be a fusion. Yeah, but something. Yeah, I will. Sorry, guys. My lady. Yeah, we work from home, so yeah, so my train of thought was stuck. Okay, so it's not stablecoin bust or in-game economy or bust, but you can do a fusion. And if you want to use the in-game economy, but for some reason you feel that there's going to be some market fluctuation in that in-game economy as a result of maybe the market conditions, you can swap it into a stable just to feel safe for the moment that in-game economy is not going to fluctuate downward because you feel that there's going to be a depreciation of that value. So that could be one way that you kind of manage your own risk with regard to your investments. Again, I'm in this space from an investor standpoint. An older guy. Last game I played was I actually thought about it. It was like Street Fighter on PlayStation 2 and then Resident Evil 1. That was like my gaming experience. But I do, from an investment standpoint, appreciate the sector, and it's not lost on me the amount of money that is spent in this sector. And I guess by Thierry's perspective, a lot of people are wasting their lives away for many billions of dollars. And it's, not the way I spend my day because I don't play games, but I do not ignore the value games provide people. And yeah, maybe some people play games a little too much, or maybe they're not maximizing their potential. That's possible, but who am I to judge what a person does with their time, right? Everyone's time is theirs, so they can use it or not in whatever capacity. But I do think that this sort of stuff needs to be discussed at the level of game development by these game developers that are coming into the space making games, considering how do I approach including a stable coin and swapping out of my in-game currency to that stable, and what stable would that be, and having those discussions and figuring out what from a programmability standpoint is necessary to make that happen and get those things going so that they can have that in-game economy robust enough so that people will say, wow, look what they're doing. And that will provide, like what Anthony was saying, a little bit more clarity with regard to how this ecosystem is creating that economy, and other people imitate and other people do better. Like Axie, for instance, when they came in, they were way early and they did something that was unbelievable. And I know people who made a killing, and I also know people who lost a lot. And unfortunately, the sad affair of taking children and using them to make money, that whole thing was just disgusting. But mistakes are made, and you can't really control how these things work because it's a new thing and people are figuring out how this all works, right? So I think lessons were learned from that, and game developers now know what not to do as a result of that case study, and we continue to build off each other with regards to what needs to be done. So I'm interested in seeing how this will evolve, and I'm excited to be part of the discussion. And as an investor, it's an exciting time for Web3 gaming, and I think it's the future. So.
¿Qué pasó, brother? ¿Te subiste también? So who invited my brother on the stage?
I get him back on. Is that Paul?
I wanted to add to that is also we also need to think about the impact that gaming has in technology. Gaming is a huge source of technology. AI is being used on a lot of new games. AI is used on a lot of latest game consoles. Same, the need for development. Not only the hardware in order to do a better gaming. Meta developing. More and more, virtual reality hardware as well as software to develop that, virtual reality gaming or that AI gaming that we play against. Develops a lot of new technologies that are later on used in other sectors that are also impactful on our lives and obviously in the market as well.
So Anthony put his head down. Thierry, I want to pass the mic to you, pass the mic to Anthony, and then I'm going to wrap things up here. It's been a great space.
Go ahead, Anthony. Go first.
I was going to make a point, but it came a little antiquated, I suppose. But it was a reference to gaming as well as its success in the markets. But beyond gaming, entertainment as a whole. And I can't remember what kind of incited a thought in my mind, but just recollecting, looking through history, I mean, we can see in the Great Depression and the evolution of cinema, and we can see kind of, the recession in the 90s and how gaming essentially established at that time. Console gaming exploded kind of during that phase. And now we're starting to see some market depreciation. When I say some, I mean pretty extravagant. The world market's pretty scary right now if you're reading the headlines. And seeing how this new iteration of gaming is developing, there's opportunity to speculate that there's a trend here. But regardless, we can always look at gaming as something that has been successful, and entertainment has been successful regardless of market conditions. And if we look at the gaming markets right now, uptrending regardless of the global markets. I mean, we're looking at, I believe it's forecasted to be $300 billion market at the end of next year. That's expected to almost double by the end of this decade. We have 3 billion gamers in the world.
It's already 350 billion, by the way.
Holy shit! So my statistics from about a month ago or 2 months ago have been blown away. So here we go. I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding. But that point is these thoughts are a little antiquated, so I apologize for deviating the topic.
I think it's totally on point, man. And that's also what kind of like the value of the economy is, and what I was talking about before. That at the end of the day, you're creating entertainment for people, and that entertainment has value. It has value, and what you made as a point is that the demand for entertainment has very inelastic demand. In fact, sometimes the more depressed you are, or if you look at the COVID, for example, that you're just like at home and like, so you would definitely want to escape that reality or get into a new sort of reality like the metaverse. And it's funny that you got my brother here because like he knows about games much more than I do. I always see things more kind of like from an economic perspective and so on. My brother's been like a hardcore gamer, and like I was like literally telling him, hey, you're wasting your time, you're wasting like your time on this. And but like I've always been surprised by people who just like have so much amount of fun and entertainment and then yet create value off of it. For me, it was more the opposite side. It was more like, oh, okay, so I'm good at this, I'm going to try to make it fun. But I can definitely see like I was in Malta at this massive gaming conference. I was speaking on the blockchain side, but I was just taking a little bit of a walking path towards the other side and the e-gaming, and I was mind blown by the numbers that these people were telling me. Billions and billions of dollars of gaming, pro gaming. People who are like, I mean, of course, it's not for everybody. I wouldn't like to tell my kids to not go to college and then just play video games, quite frankly. But to the point of what my brother said, gamifying things is definitely the way to go. I'm trying to do that for myself, but you're like, for better or for worse, you're gamifying drones and the military. You're gamifying plenty of things you don't even know that they've been gamified first. They've even gamified, with the fungus, and using science to try to figure out what was going to be the critical path for you to go from one point A to point B in a network. And then they figured it out through organic methods with fungus, but also through AI. And I think like we really like at the end of the day, the point being, according to estimates, in 2030 we passed the Turing test, but apparently we've already been there. There's some guy in Google who says that the AI went already rogue, right? And then they say that the next frontier is 2040 when we all go full singularity. And singularity is a massive topic because essentially what it tells you is you and I, all of us here, we have a limited consciousness based on how we process data and how we tap into the data. But longer term, if you have an AI that can pass the Turing test and think like a human, but have like a perfect memory of all of the data that's been recorded since the beginning of history, already that consciousness will be somewhat superior. Now, if you plug yourself into a neural network, like kind of Neuralink, and I think we're going to be speaking about that hopefully with Elon soon, then you definitely tap into another type of consciousness. Now, if you leave AI by itself, the problem is that you don't know what you don't know. So it means that you don't know how the AI will function and think. Maybe they'll say, look at them bunch of apes or ants, like they're not worth looking at. Or maybe they'll be like going full blown Matrix movie, right? Because remember the Matrix movie, the plot is it's 2030 or 2040. AI went absolutely rogue, and they're being fed by solar, and so humans, as a retaliation, they blow up the atmosphere so that they can't get solar, and so the AI turns humans into battery in order to get energy. I mean, either we go like this way, or we like basically merge with them, right? And so and this is what kind of like Neuralink evolution is probably going to be like. So at the end of the day, are we going to be living? And I know it's a stretch, but guys, like hold on. At the end of the day, we might merge into a game, guys, and the game might be more real than reality. And then we'll be able to save state, and then we'll be able to, essentially find other things in that tech world where your the realities of time and space and gravity don't exist. You can imagine an entire new economy where robots are clients, where other people's are clients, and where the capacity of creating value in a world where you don't have to observe the laws of physics is in a way much more higher than the capacity of our miserable three-dimension kind of existence. And so, in a way, like we're reaching the boundaries of the economy because of the Fed fuck up the monetary system and all central banks. But it could very well be that this, what we're talking about right now, the Web2, the Web3, and well, the passage from the economy to Web3 is actually what's going to provide a boost to what's coming next. So that's another one of my rants.
I mean, it's already happening in gaming, right? I mean, the metaverse, you can actually buy skins. Call of Duty, for example, which one of the biggest game on the market today, you can actually use virtual tokens to buy skins, to buy weapons, to buy specific virtual stuff that doesn't even are not tangible. So it's a market that already exists. Isn't that also what Metaverse is trying to get to create a virtual reality with Meta, where we will have a parallel economy where you will actually be able to work on that specific world and make money virtually, but also that can be used in the current world. Isn't there like a meme already? There's actually people making a lot of money by being a virtual stripper, for example, and they're making money virtually that they can use on our current reality as well. So it is a creation of a full parallel market and a full parallel business that already exists, and unfortunately is a reality today. It's just getting bigger and bigger, and there's a big potential of it. Meta is trying to create their metaverse and creating the Oculus that will be able to be the hardware that people will need to use in order to reach to that new world that they are creating and investing in.
I'm just going to quickly
There's gonna
interject
be-
because I know you want to wrap it up, and I don't want to take too long. But on that topic, it strays a bit away from any of my thought processes right now because I guess I'm a little bit more of a short and midterm thinker. But I pinned something up top there, and Thierry, you made a point about a game becoming more real than real life. This is just an article from Forbes on the founder of Oculus, who was fired from Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, or fired from some organization. I have to refresh. It's been a while since I read the article. But he's created a VR headset that if you die in the game, you die in real life. Or at least that's the allegation. But I digress.
Let's go Croissant, Cryptopher, and Graslow.
Super quick, I just wanted to touch on, I know a lot of people have been talking about Neuralink lately and, the integration with AI coming up. But whenever that conversation comes up, I do just want to point out the study of epigenetics, which is a little bit of an alternative to this, which is gene therapy. It's already being studied where if you parallel a human brain to a computer and we try to upgrade the human to be similar to a computer, you look to things like memory capability, processing power, or speed, I suppose. But they're already being studied how to do these things, and they haven't gotten it just right yet. So for example, there was a study where, if you increase brain size, and it's one method to solve this issue, but then as it turns out, the heart isn't strong enough to pump for the increased organ size of the brain, so they have to figure that out. But the point is that it is being studied, and upgrading the humans biologically as a way to compete with AI it's out there. I just want to make sure people know about that as a topic, alternate side of this conversation.
Cryptopher.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I just wanted to say to everyone, I know Noah's going to wrap up, so I don't want to infringe on your time, Noah. Thank you for the space. I wish you all a miserable three-dimensional day and your miserable lives. I can't wait to the Elon brain chip and uploading my brain so I can increase in size and give myself a massive heart attack so I can be done with my three-dimensional miserable life. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming on, Cryptopher. Grasslow.
I just wanted to leave you with one thing on topic of like game economies and making money in a game. If you guys have not watched the latest episode of The Simpsons from Sunday, go watch that. It's on Fox, Hulu, a number of services, but it's about Roblox and they're duping items in the game to sell them for in-game tokens, and then they talk about the struggle of like selling the tokens and getting real money out of them. And they also throw an NFT joke in there as well. So just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Last but not least, Thierry, and then I'm going to close things up.
I'm going to be short, guys. If you want to know about a space that we will be doing with kind of like hedge fund managers and economy and talk more about stable coins and the new monetary reset, I'm doing, so check my profile. Follow me. I'm doing this next Monday. And it's going to be very high level speakers. And if we manage to break the internet like we did last time, maybe Elon is going to show up again. So for now we have 7 out of 10. So hopefully we'll make it. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Noah, and everybody here again.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm going to let my co-host Acti finish up with some closing thoughts.
Hey, Noah, thank you. This has been amazing, guys. Like when we started this, I was thinking, well, what are we going to talk about? Web3 gaming. Sure, ownership, control, everything's good. Distributed ledgers and all that. You have control of everything you're using. There's the security and fairness aspect of it, right? Players can trust the system. The game is verifiable and tamper-proof and all that. It's super cool, right? And then there's the interoperability, which I like the most. I would very much like to be able to use my avatars from World of Warcraft and EVE Online and all the games I've played, across different platforms. So that's going to be super cool. But what I want to do is we've had a lot of speakers here, and I just want to bring out like a small recap of what's been discussed. So I believe we started off with Gus from Crixivia and talking about hyper casual games and looking at market shares. We had Ian from WAGMI Games, and he's a big prominent speaker of he's a game first kind of guy, and sure, he had some interesting points about mobile versus hyper casual, and trying to keep us on track and trying to get these developers to be true to their brand and to do a little bit more market research, perhaps. And one of the most important points that Ain made was that why are we requiring these people to use crypto to buy these NFTs or play these games? We can just onboard them with fiat and then go about it the Reddit way, right? And that's super cool. So thanks, Ayn, for joining. We also had Jay Crypto, and thank you, Jay Crypto, for coming on. The industry is very new. I agree with a lot of the stuff he said, and maybe we should look at these guilds, and we should look at these people that are really interested and engaging with the Web3 space, right? And we also had Tech here, and Tech had an interesting take, and I agree completely with him because the way Web3 is now is a little boring. I'm not gonna lie, and not everyone can get excited, about interacting with a smart contract. Nobody wants a steep learning curve. So there's again the question of how do you monetize it, right? Do you go for the 30-second ads? Do you go for the gotcha style? I don't know. And but thank you for those thoughts, Tech, and of course Anthony here is staying till the end. Thanks for being here, Anthony. And Anthony's very bullish on earning mechanics, and he had some interesting points about the advertising model, right? And you can make it non-intrusive. You can integrate social media. You can integrate social sharing and streaming, and there's a lot of opportunity there. So thank you, Anthony, for all the nice points. We had KG in here, an old school RuneScape fan. Super exciting stuff from him. And one of the most important points that he made, I think it was around the grinding mechanics, right? And how do you make those sustainable and fun, right? And Yusuf came in. Thanks for coming in, Yusuf. And he was just pointing back to the fundamentals and pointing back to the design documents, right? He would have us all just focus on the game mechanics and just build a really fun game, right? It does look like some of these devs are kind of focusing on taking the mobile way of creating these games and trying to apply it to desktop instead of just focusing on creating a super cool game. And the most important point that Yusuf made, I think, is that your main source of income shouldn't be playing these games, right? And well, I mean, if you're a professional gamer, then of course. But other than that, they should just be fun to play, you know. And so thank you, Yusuf, for coming. We also had Exceed come in here, you know, and Exceed was bringing up some really cool points about the shareholder type model versus the daily earning type model, right? And that's certainly something that I'll be looking into more. And I like how Exceed has this vision of the internet being owned by users and buildings and builders, you know, and rather sooner than later. I'd like to see that. We also had Mech. Thanks, Mech, for joining. And yeah, Mech was talking about some of the things that I love, you know, about scaling, about ownership, and all the good stuff, you know, going back to the roots. And we also had Scott Herman from WAGME here. Thank you for joining, Scott. And Scott made a point that you get to choose where you spend your time, right? And there's still a lot of people that don't understand Web3, don't understand NFT, crypto at all, right? And these people are oftentimes, you know, big gamers themselves or big content creators themselves. So we gotta find a way to educate these people somehow, right? We also had Fake come in. Fake pointed out something really interesting, that the Web2 gaming is doing is all right. You know, they're doing fine. So we should perhaps learn from them, you know, and not try to bash them as much as we do. Then we had Mr. D Hype here. D Hype, I love your energy, man. I love it, and I too believe that AI will just build something for us. You know, I don't think we'll be, you know, writing code for much longer or doing much of anything in the future, and we'll just have AI build it for us. And it's cool. Web3 is cool. I agree with that too. Web3 is very cool. So thank you for the rants and the insight here, Mr. D Hype. It's really been cool. And of course, Terry, always with the always with the interesting, I would say more unorthodox opinions. You know, calling NFTs the next level of degeneracy. But I guess most people are used to Terry for now. And I'm sorry about your your CryptoPunk experience there, Terry. I had no idea, but yeah, $80 and didn't buy it. I don't know how you sleep at night. Anyway, thank you for joining. We also have Labyrinth here. Labyrinth had a very good point about content, because original content is scarce, right? And it's hard to have original content because people want that content. They want to digest something cool, right? And content is king, right? Content still is king, and there's some argument to be made about computing resources and everything. So thank you for joining, Labyrinth. Crypto Frog Columbus pointed out that there's some cool revenue opportunities, and we just have to be careful in doing it in a safe, stable, and maybe sustainable way. So thank you for joining. We also had Croissant here. Croissant's already a regular here with the Aquarium. So when it comes to revenue, I believe Croissant said, "Well, are we just doing the same thing but just calling it a different way?" And I think that perhaps might be it. I don't know. We'll have to see how things turn out. We also had Grosslow come in. Thank you for joining, sir. And yes, I agree with you as well. The economic model it is probably the most important when you're building these, and perhaps some of these builders should stop focusing on the price of the token and just build a cool game, right? So thank you, Grosslow, for joining. And we also had Paul. And Paul said, "Yeah, we need more development. You know, we're still in the beginning. We still got time. We got somebody was saying, I don't know, 24 months, 36 months maybe before all this shifts in a higher gear. So we'll see how VR, AR, and everything does. So I just want to thank everyone. This has been tremendous. I've had fun. I don't know where these 3 hours have gone. It's I've just been listening here, laughing. Like it's amazing. So for everyone that's new here or hasn't been with us before, Whalecoin Talk is a Web3 media group, and we focus on education. Right, we like to spread the good crypto word. You know, we give blockchain solutions a podium, and they can showcase what they're building to our investors, to our builders and enthusiasts. And the Aquarium is just our latest addition to our educator toolbox, I would say. And we do these every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UTC. And yeah, it's a round table, it's a panel, it's a podcast, however you want to view it. You know, we like to bring industry experts, we like to bring people with extended experience in the space, and just share their opinions on different topics. And I think today was one of the best we've had so far. So before passing it back to Noah, I'll just reiterate what Dr. Hype was saying. You know, and in the spirit of honest circle jerk, I urge everybody to just everyone just follow everyone around here, and we're all gonna make it, right? So thank you everybody for joining. This has been a tremendous one. We've also recorded it on YouTube, so we'll have the full thing in one piece. I know the space drugged us halfway through, but it is what it is. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been amazing. Yeah, and back to you now.
Acti, you're a legend, man. I don't have much else to say after that. Thank you so much for closing. Thank you to the beloved panelists for coming on. As Acti mentioned, our Aquarium is our latest edition. We pick hot topics in the industry, or just more recently, hot topics, period, and try to put together a smart panel and bring everyone on as a community to discuss very Socratic style, roundtable style exchange of ideas and thoughts. So if you have any ideas for topics, give me a DM. Happy to explore any suggestions. And if you just want to be on the panel, shoot me a DM.